Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning and welcome to this event organized by the European Training Foundation in partnership with the Joint Research Center of the European Commission and in close collaboration with the Ministry of Education of Azerbaijan and in particular with the Bureau of ICT for Education. My name is Alessandro Brolpito. I work at the European Training Foundation as a senior specialist on digital skills and learning. The event of today has three main objectives. First of all, I'm very glad that we launch today officially the pilot of SELFIE in Azerbaijan, involving a sample of 20 schools selected by the Ministry of Education. A second objective is to explain the SELFIE tool, including the process and the related methodology at system and at school level for piloting and eventually for upscaling and integrating SELFIE into the national education and training system. Last but not least, the last objective is to deliver a hands-on training on SELFIE to the schools that are participating in the pilot. Now, before starting entering to SELFIE, I pass now the floor to the chair of this event, my colleague Ermina Martini, for some technical notes and information. Ermina, over to you.
Thank you, Alessandro. And good morning, everybody, and welcome also from my side to today's meeting, which I'm very pleased to chair. Before Alessandro, as anticipated, before starting with the agenda, and while I can see participants are still joining and getting connected, I would like to draw your attention on some technical aspects. If we can see on the screen the slide with the Zoom features, and if you can look at the bottom bar of your screen, you will see the mic icon. And we kindly ask you to please mute your mic. This is mainly to avoid sound interference. There is also the camera icon, and you are welcome to keep it open so that we can see each other, but we would like to inform you that this meeting will be recorded, and the recording will be used for ETF communication purposes. So if you don't wish to be recorded, please switch it off. Very important, going on the bottom bar, you will find the language channel. You can listen this meeting in English or in Azerbaijani. You have to select on the interpretation channel icon, either English, either Russian. I know it seems strange, but under Russian, you will listen Azerbaijani. It's just an issue of label of the Zoom setting, but our very good interpreters, they are working behind the scene and they are translating in Azerbaijani. Let me also welcome them and thank you them for their very good work. Finally, on the right side of your screen, you can see the chat feature, and you are encouraged to write your question in the chat anytime in English or in Azerbaijani. Just please add the name of the speaker you're addressing your question to. You can also ask question orally. You can raise your hand. There is a small icon feature, reaction. It's called reaction in the bottom bar where you can raise your hand and we will give you the floor. So I hope that by now we are all connected. We can listen to the meeting in the language that we selected. If there is any technical issue, please let us know. Otherwise, I will go to briefly outline the meeting's agenda. We can go to the next slide. And we will start with the opening panel. We have a very remarkable list of speakers for the opening remarks. We will then listen to the presentation of Alessandro Brolpito and Nicoletta Giannazzu from ETF and from the Joint Research Center, who will introduce us into the SELFIE world with their intervention on digital learning and the SELFIE pilot. The first part of the meeting will end here. So at around noon, we will break for a coffee break. And the second part of the meeting has been specifically designed to provide an hands-on training for the representative of the 12 schools involved in the pilot. So there will be a combination of demo with exercise in breakout rooms. The session will be animated by Nata Van Badalova, the SELFIE National Coordinator, and Amin Charkazov, the SELFIE Azerbaijan National Expert, who I'm very pleased to welcome to today's meeting as well. There will be a wrap-up session with the further occasion for Q&A, and then we will close with some final key messages. So it's indeed a very dense, very inspiring agenda ahead of us. We will do our best to stick to the time. And I think that now we are ready to start with the opening panel. And I have the honor and the pleasure to invite the first speaker of today's, Miss Vafa Yakublu, from the Ministry of Education of Azerbaijan. She's the head of Department of Content Teaching and Assessment in General Education. Thank you very much, Ms. Yakublu. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Hürmetli tədbir iştirakçıları.
Dear participants, today we will be using a magic mirror today. This magic mirror actually for a long time was something that we read in the tales from the history, etc. And this pandemics forced us to use this magic mirror on a daily basis. And we actually saw its advantages. Let's not forget that this magic mirror happens as the result of human knowledge, and using this digital and human knowledge, we will see how we can widen our own capacities and building. And that this magic mirror will help us to reach new knowledge. This is a tool to reach new and something that we didn't know before. 100 years ago, if we said knowledgeable person, we would mean a person who knows everything, who's highly literate. But now we don't call such people literate. There is functional literacy knowledge that is closely related to internet. Everything is on internet, meaning that those people are able to work with large database, process it, and use it for their own purposes. And of course, see the positive results of this usage. So today, our education faces new function or new challenge, let's say. And in the rapidly changing world, we have to teach our students, our children, to use digital platform to be more literate and to be more successful in life. Personally, me think that we won't have any problem with students because our students are already the citizens of this virtual world. For them, virtual use of virtual tools is something natural. Our main problem most probably will be with elder people, with adults, with teachers, pedagogical staff, to change their teaching methodology and to use digital means more for their teaching methods will require strengths for us. Today, we start with a small group of schools, very small number of schools, but for learning, for let's say, to calculate our capacities, it's a very good opportunity, I would say, for us. Sometimes I think maybe we are a bit early maybe as education system, we are not ready for the digital system, for transformation, but we should not forget another side, that human society develops only when they start to do what they cannot do, start to think out of box. And I think we will develop by learning what we didn't do so far, by opening new doors for ourselves, that will help for our students to learn more effectively, spending less time and learning more wider. I wish success to all participants. It's very interesting initiative, and of course, it's at the same time challenging initiative that requires a lot of efforts on all stakeholders. So I think we will be next to you to help you when needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yakublu. It's truly, I fully share your image of the magic mirror that we are all using. Thank you. And now I'm passing the floor to the second speaker of the opening panel. Apologize for the pronunciation if it's not correct. Is Mr. Vusal Kanlarov. Is the head of the Bureau on ICT for Education, also representing the Ministry of Education of Azerbaijan. Thank you very much, Mr. Kanlarov. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Martini. Good morning to everyone. It is a great start of the week and great start of the day to be part of an event like this. I also would like to welcome our educators from Azerbaijan who are joining this project. I think we had a long time preparing for it, and finally we need to start and go and see the effects of overall digital transformation that the education system in Azerbaijan has seen during the last year. I think it is a good time for it. As I definitely share the vision of my colleague, Ms. Yagoglu, in terms of are we ready to be part of this study? But I think during the last year, we had quite remarkable changes in the education system throughout the world that make this kind of studies, I think, important and necessary. As a Bureau on ICT for Education, we have been running numerous activities to make sure that different levels of the education system have access to online learning opportunities throughout the last year. We launched one of the largest projects in Azerbaijan called the Virtual School, where we had one centralized system for more than 4,000 schools in one platform, and we worked with our partners in Microsoft and our content partners at UNESCO and OECD to put this together as a platform, one for all secondary education system. We created similar opportunities in vocational education and higher education and secondary professional education levels. And so far, we have about 2 million participants who have been registered on these different platforms. And 1.5 of them are active users, as we can see from our systems. It is quite remarkable that in the SELFIE project, we will have not only secondary schools, but also vocational schools. I think it will answer one of the biggest challenges that we had throughout the year. Can we really make sure that the vocational education can learn online? It will be interesting to look into that. At the same time, we are looking forward to see if the secondary education has benefited from this whole new tools and new teaching methods that were introduced so rapidly. And I always compare this to fixing the plane while we were flying. The whole last year was like that. We were putting together various tools, various basically methodologies that we were just inventing on our way, that we were trying to see if the education system would take it and can use it. At the same time, I have to mention that our Ministry of Education's project, the Virtual School, has been selected to be part of the of another project, which has an involvement of Microsoft Corporation, of UNESCO and the OECD. The project is called Leading Countries of the World, and we're one of the 6 countries represented there. We're putting together various research tools, AI-enabled research tools, to see and come up with the tools for predictive analytics, where we can see students' behavior online with their learning in the school. We're now connecting various data layers to make sure that our analytic systems can really measure the learning of students and the teaching abilities of teachers online. With the SELFIE project, we are looking into 12 schools, which is, I think, and when you look into that selection, I think it's quite a successful focus group. We're looking forward to see the results of the study. We'll have from secondary schools both central capital schools and regional schools, and the same applies to the vocational education. Both capital and the regional schools are involved, and we, as the Bureau on ICT for Education, have translated and approved with the agency the surveys that will be used during this study, and we'll stand all ready to start this up, and are always ready to utilize the tools that we have, online tools that we have, online communication tools that we have to enhance this. Maybe at some point we should put together different layers of data that we have, and specifically for the schools who are participating in this project, of course, not to change the methodology of the existing methodology too much, but I think these data sets can be useful to put together and see when we start comparing the outcomes of the study. So without too much of opening speech, I would like to thank the hosts of today's event, and I will thank the schools who are volunteering to participate in this project, and looking forward to see the results. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you, Mr. Kanlarov. It was indeed very interesting to hear how the Minister of Education is involved, not just on the SELFIE project, but on with different actors and stakeholders on multiple projects. So thanks for the commitment and the involvement in this initiative. I'm now pleased to pass the floor to the representative of the EU delegation in Azerbaijan, Ms. Ioana Varau. She's program manager in the cooperation section of the delegation, and she's very welcome to take the floor for some opening remark. Ms. Varau, please.
Hello, good morning to everyone. Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure to join all of you today, and with all of you to learn a little bit more about the EU SELFIE pilot. And I would like to thank the ETF colleagues and also the GRC colleagues for the invitation for me to be in the opening panel. I think we can all agree that digital transformation in education is very much on the agenda, particularly in the current unprecedented situation of COVID-19 and how it affected and also is affecting learning at all levels. The agenda today is quite impressive, with so many colleagues and experts that will share with us the latest on digital skills and on how to support schools in the digital age. So I will just focus a little bit more on what the EU has been doing in Azerbaijan in the recent years to support education and that. I think we all know that the EU has been long-standing and strategic partner of Azerbaijan in education and training. And for many years now, we've been supporting the government reform efforts in education sector through bilateral and multilateral programs. We have been working together in areas such as modernization of vocational education, reform of our education, improvement of inclusive education, strengthening of civic participation in education, and always striving to bring this in line with the EU standards. At the early stages of the pandemic last year, we have worked quickly with our implementing partners in the country, particularly on the VET sector, on some short-term solutions to readjust our ongoing projects and address as much as possible the challenges that schools were facing to remain operational, and to assist them in establishing and maintaining communications between teachers and students, despite having suspended face-to-face classes. So with the UNDP, GIZ, for instance, we have supported the state agency on vocational education in the production of online classes in a number of subjects, and these were aired on the national TV. But as we move forward, it is quite clear that this is a very small step, and that we must focus on like long-term and invest on the training of teachers and students, on their readiness in the digital learning, and to revise teaching and learning models to make the best use of digital resources and tools. One of our most recent projects in Azerbaijan that started late August last year, and is being implemented by UNDP, will provide again support to the state agency on vocational education in their efforts while recognizing the significant challenges that distance and online learning presents and how to address them, particularly in the VET sector with its unique specificities, namely the focus on practical skills, on work readiness, which can make remote learning, for instance, quite challenging. We also have a number of regional projects, such as EU for Digital, which supports implementation of digital skills strategy across the Eastern Partnership countries. And we are also working currently on our program in 21-27. And we plan, of course, to continue support educational, structural, and systemic change in Azerbaijan, with focus on digital relevance and inclusiveness at all levels of education and training. This being said, EU SELFIE is a great opportunity for Azerbaijan in terms of equipping teachers and students with digital skills to ensure their readiness to engage in digital learning. I would like to thank the ETF colleagues and GRC colleagues for organizing the event and for giving us the opportunity to learn more about the SELFIE pilot. And in the future, it would be great to have a better overview of the digital readiness of Azerbaijan and see how we can further incorporate this in our ongoing and planned assistance in education in the country. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you very much. Also to briefly picture the EU delegation support in Azerbaijan. And now I'm welcome Mr. Yves Pouni. He is Deputy Head of Human Capital and Employment Unit at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, the key partner of ETF in the implementation of the SELFIE project. Thank you, Mr. Pouni. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Emina, and also a warm welcome and good morning from my side, from Sevilla. So, as Emina said, we are part of the European Commission, but we are the so-called Joint Research Center, which is the research department, the in-house research laboratory of the Commission, working on supporting European policies in many, many different areas, and of course also in the area of education and training and skills. So we are very pleased and honored to be with you, with the distinguished guests in Azerbaijan, with the representative from the ministry, with the teachers, with other educational experts and stakeholders, and of course also with the colleagues from the European Training Foundation. So the GRC has been developing the SELFIE project already since many years. We started working on that as a scientific project in 2014, 2015. We published the first report on that, the framework for digital transformation of educational organizations, called DIGCOM.org. And on the basis of this theoretical kind of conceptual framework, we realized that it could be useful to have a concrete tool, a self-reflection instrument, that actually could put this framework into practice and be really useful for the schools. And this is the key issue, of course. And on the basis of that, we developed the SELFIE tool, which of course we piloted, we tested it until we got a final version, which was then offered in all the European languages in October 2018 by the European Commissioner Navracsics at that time for education. And in the meantime, we're very pleased that SELFIE has been attaching great interest from schools all over the world, from especially Europe, but also outside of Europe. We were pleased to celebrate 2 weeks ago more than 1 million users of SELFIE from around 10,000 schools from 70 different countries. So we were very pleased with that. But of course, this is still a start. The numbers are important, but we still would like, of course, and like to support and have more schools and more countries involved in the use of SELFIE. And that's why we're also pleased to be with you here today with Azerbaijan. Although you might say, okay, this is a small number of schools, it's a small pilot, but still, I would like to insist, it is still also very important for us to have all of you involved, because all the small kind of contributions in the end make something bigger, which we would like to reach. And what we, of course, would like to reach in the end is to help our schools deal with the digital transformation and with the challenges that the speakers already before mentioned. Because now with COVID and the rapid, unexpected shift to digital and online learning makes such a tool as SELFIE even more relevant and more important than ever. Actually, we realize that because now we've also updated again the SELFIE tool this year. And in August, we actually launched an updated version where we focused and integrated and included more questions specifically on blended learning to cover the new challenges that we are now facing when the schools had to close and everything had to go online. So I'm also pleased today that you will see my colleagues will explain to you in detail more how the tool works, what it brings. So my colleagues will work together with you on that. From my side, again, I just would like to thank you all for your interest, for your contributions, and just insist again that this is a collaboration, the SELFIE tool, between the European Commission, the GRC, DG Education and Culture, and the ETF, the European Training Foundation, in the end, with the ultimate goal to help our schools, to support our schools, to make use of digital technologies, to become much more confident in the use of digital technologies, and in the end, as in the beginning also one of the speakers said, to ensure that our students also have the necessary skills and competences to be part in the digital society and the digital economy. So thanks a lot. Warm welcome again from my side, and I wish you an excellent workshop still today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, Yves. Thank you very much. And what an impressive target already, 1 million users. And the School of Azerbaijan are adding up on this number. So now it's time for my colleague, Manuela Prina. She's the head of Skills in Education and Development Unit at the European Training Foundation. Manuela, please, the floor is yours for some opening remark. Thank you.
Well, good morning to all of you. I'm very happy to be virtually in Azerbaijan. I wish I was there in person, and I hope that soon we will be able to travel and be together really for a good coffee and a good talk live. On behalf of the ETF, let me welcome you to the workshop and thank the Ministry of Education of Azerbaijan and the Bureau of ICT for Education for really joining forces together with us and the JRC and the delegation to embark in this adventure, which is SELFIE. SELFIE, for me, it's a very important project because as before Mr. Kandlarov was saying, in the last year we were flying a plane and trying to adjust while flying the direction and which way to go. And SELFIE is really the onboard control tool, but it also offers some support from the tower. So SELFIE is the tool that allows us to really try to address the priority of looking into digital and online learning on one side, but also digital skills and competences. I would say those are the keywords that we saw during the last year emerging as a need from all our partner countries, needs that were there before, needs that will be there in the future, but for sure we have now this urge and we have touched all of us the urgency to really give an answer and to support our teachers, our schools, all providers. We heard before the need to involve also vet schools, and of course our students and families as well. So SELFIE is this tool, and I'm very happy that Azerbaijan is joining in the SELFIE family. And today we will have the opportunity to learn in details how the SELFIE works, but it's only the start of the story. And I'm sure that in a few months from now, we will meet again to see how things are going and where each school is flying its own plane. So let me wish you a very good and successful workshop. And more importantly, wish you a really great joint collaboration to really benefit at best from SELFIE. Thank you, and Ermina, back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manuela. And now we have the pleasure to have the last of our speakers of the opening panel, my colleague Margareta Nikolovska. Margareta, she's senior specialist in vet policies and system, but she's also the country coordinator for Azerbaijan at the European Training Foundation. So Margareta, over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Good morning from Torino. I'm the one from ETF that had privilege to often come to Azerbaijan. And I was during the year 5 to 6 times in the country. So after second year being locked here in Italy, in Torino, and not coming on site, I'm really little bit disappointed. But I do believe that we will really have the opportunity to soon travel and to meet each other. Manuela spoke already about SELFIE. What I would like to tell you is a little bit more about ETF in Azerbaijan and what we are doing. For us, you know, it's very important to have an overview how and to be aware how to be supportive to human capital development in the country. And maybe you are aware about our flagship activity, which is called Torino Process, and which is related to review and monitoring jointly in partnership with Ministry of Education, State Agency for Vocational Education and Training, and Ministry of Labor on the progress country is doing in human capital development with emphasis on vocational education and training. This is particularly very important because of our partnership and cooperation with different EU institutions and in particular with EU delegation in Azerbaijan. Because we also support the processes which are related to funding different projects of the EU in the sector of education and training. Another important development where we have been pleased to see again very proactive role of the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Labor is the Azerbaijani participation in the ETF network of excellence. This is particularly important for the schools and for the training centers which would like to be at the age of innovation and to understand better how they can restructure or improve their activities to serve the local community, but at the same time to respond to very pressing competitiveness in their environment. Well, we have number of schools around the table today interested in introducing SELFIE. And I would recommend try to Google ETF Network for Excellence and try to see what is behind it. There might be some interesting ideas for you which go beyond SELFIE. Being a partner of European Union in Azerbaijan, we also have a lot of activities in the framework of Eastern Partnership. And again, in partnership with EU delegation and certainly with the ministry, with different stakeholders in Azerbaijan, we can and we provide opportunities for mutual learning. Of course, in the context of today's event, it goes without saying that personally being responsible for ETF activities related to Azerbaijan, it is very important that this project is conceived in, I would say, in a triangle way. It's the key institutions of the country, the key institutions on the side of EU delegation, and of course the schools who will be the key beneficiaries of innovation around SELFIE. I wish you very good luck ahead, and thank you for having us today and also in the future in relation to SELFIEs and opportunities ahead. Ermina, over to you.
Thank you, Margareta. Thank you very much. And let me thank again all the speakers of the opening panel. They were actually very good in providing different perspective and in picturing a comprehensive introductory framework for today's meeting and for the actual kickoff of SELFIE. But before entering into the core content, I would like just to ask all of you, exactly, what does SELFIE mean to you? What, if you think about SELFIE, what comes up to your mind? SELFIE means effective management of schools, or SELFIE means effective use of digital technology in teaching and learning, or SELFIE means digital readiness of school system, or SELFIE is taking a picture with friends. So we will open the poll and you can make your choice. You can choose on your screen what does SELFIE means to you. I can see
here
that
we are.
I can see that the poll is already over your screen. You can make your choice. You can choose only one option. And we leave you the time actually to choose. It's just a warm up before entering into the core part of our agenda. And I can see almost 30 persons voted already. So please, you can click directly on the poll and on the choice that better represent your feeling in relation to SELFIE.
Before starting, you know?
Exactly. We close the poll, so we have the result, and we can see that for the majority of us, SELFIE means effective use of digital technology in teaching and learning, which is indeed correct. So good, but it's also correct when we say SELFIE connected to digital readiness of school system. And it might be probably a bit too ambitious to connect SELFIE to effective management of schools, but we will discover why this is not so the best answer to our question in the next presentation. And why not? Actually, SELFIE is indeed also taking a picture with friends, so it's completely true, but unfortunately it's not the topic of today's meeting. So thank you very much for this warm-up and for participating in the poll. We can now move. We are running let's say 10 minutes behind schedule. We can move to the next agenda item, and it's the presentation of our colleagues. You met already Alessandro Brolpito, and he will give a presentation together with Nicoletta Giannazzu. She's the SELFIE project manager at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. And the focus of their presentation will be on supporting schools for learning in the digital age and the EU SELFIE project. So Alessandro, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ermina. So let's move to the next slide and try to go quickly through the slide where we basically introduce SELFIE. So, but let me start from introducing the European Training Foundation. We mentioned already UNESCO, OECD, and ETF, let's say, is an agency of the European Union. And in the framework of the EU external relation, the ETF support 29 countries, including Azerbaijan, to improve the vocational education and training system. And in the process of reforming the education and training system, we also analyze several aspects, including the use of digital technologies in teaching and learning. And for this, let's say, we use two lenses. On the first one is focusing on policy and practices related to the use of digital and online learning. And the second one focus on the practices for developing digital skills and competencies as two correlated elements. Next slide, please. Here in this map that is coming in is to show where we are. ETF is based in Italy, in Turin, and in the map, the color countries are the ETF partner countries, are the countries surrounding the EU member states, but there are also countries in Central Asia and North Africa. Next slide, please. Now, when we talk about the use of digital technologies in teaching and learning and assessment, well, this requires the development of a high-performing digital education ecosystem, and should aims to enhancing the digital skills and competence of pupils at schools, but also of all citizens, to sustain an inclusive digital transition in this new reality that we are already facing. And looking beyond the COVID-19 emergency, the focus should be on a shift, let's say, from distance digital learning. Now, if I understand correctly, there is a lockdown still at school, in a school, so there is a distance learning, but with SELFIE, we should try to look beyond the emergency and go and think about the blended learning, which means to bring the technology within the school, an effective use within the school. Of course, the digital technologies must aim to reduce inequalities, for example, offering new solutions for personalization and differentiation. So it must be a tool for teachers in this respect. At the system level, the use of digital technology can help the reform of existing education and training system toward a lifelong learning system, because it's clear that upskilling and reskilling will be more and more requested. Next slide, please. Now, in this slide, this is a framework that on the left of the slide, where it's conceptualized what does it mean in terms of knowledge to introduce digital technologies in education. And it means to have three kinds of knowledge. So it's quite a challenging exercise. Because the integration of digital technologies, let's say, imply a process for planning of planning for pedagogical, but also technological and organizational change with the involvement of all the school community, because the school leaders should ensure the development of a credible and tailored school digital strategy. Educators, teachers should be digitally competent and feel confident also to use a digital learning opportunity. Last but not least, as in the panel was already mentioned, student needs to be actively involved, because they might be not digitally competent, let's say, frankly speaking, but they are digital native. They have needs, they have an ambition in using technology in learning. So it's very important to have them on board. Next slide, please. So in this context, I mean, the Ministry of Education of Azerbaijan has decided to pilot SELFIE. Let me say something on top of what Eva was very well saying in the opening panel. SELFIE, let's say, is a diagnostic tool that has been developed by the European Commission with the scientific support of the Joint Research Center. Has been launched in October 2018, and it aims to support a school to integrate digital technologies in teaching and learning and assessment practices. SELFIE provides to schools, in concrete terms, a survey for school leaders, teachers, and students for a collective reflection on how to improve the digital capacity of their school. The SELFIE in figure have been already mentioned. Clearly, the COVID-19 pushed a lot of interest on SELFIE, but you see that basically it's much more beyond the EU member state. We are talking of SELFIE has been used already in more than 70 countries. Next slide, please. Now, let me focus a bit more on SELFIE. The SELFIE survey covers 8 areas and offer, let's say, a 360 degrees view, because an effective use of digital technology is not only a matter of infrastructure and equipment. It relies on all the 8 areas in this slide. Now, I don't have time, we are running a bit late. I can't go through all the elements, but for example, look at the assessment practices. This area provides a statement and question related to measure that school is taking or it may take in order to gradually shift the balance from traditional assessment and technology-enabled assessment practices. For example, to implement digital formative assessment. This is quite an innovative way to let to assess the progress of students. Next slide, please. So Eva was already mentioning the conceptual framework that is behind, including 74 descriptor. So this is basically, you don't need it now to read all the elements, but what I wanted to highlight that there is a conceptual framework with solid scientific basis. Then from this framework, 3 surveys for pre-tertiary education, so for primary, general, and vocational education, has been developed. For each survey, so for each schools involved in the pilot, there are 3 questionnaires. Okay, 1 for the school leaders, 1 for the teachers, and 1 for the students. They all refer to the conceptual framework, DIC-comp.org, and to the 74 descriptors that are being scientifically validated to really help to understand whether to what extent that the digital technology are used effectively in a school. So for each school, the SELFIE include 3 questionnaires. Next slide, please. Now, I would like to spend a little time on this slide because it's quite important to understand what SELFIE is about. First of all, SELFIE can be used by any device, and during the school lockdown, this is very, very important, but even later. It is already translated in more than 35 languages, including Azerbaijani. So it's already in your language and ready to be used. SELFIE is a secure and ensure anonymity of a participant because a SELFIE is not collecting any personal data. The SELFIE school results are accessible only to the own schools unless it deems to share this information. The customization is very, very high. So there are a set of core questions, mandatory, but then you have a bank of optional questions, and each school can select which of the optional questions to use for the specificity. But not only, you can add also your own questions. So questions that you write because you think this is a really important aspect for your school. And the SELFIE school coordinator that have been already identified in all 12 schools has been already identified and has a dashboard from where to organize and launch and monitoring and share the result of the survey. At national level, anonymized aggregate data from all the school pilot and SELFIE will be shared to inform future decision about SELFIE. And let me recall one important point. The pilot of SELFIE is not about measuring or comparing the digital capacity of the pilot on schools. Not at all. The piloting of SELFIE is to understand whether this tool is useful to school to improve their digital capacity. So to understand whether anonymized aggregate data from the run of SELFIE is useful at system level and can inform education reform. And it's for any schools. It's not only for good school. This is another important aspect. Next one. Okay, here what we are going to do in the next slide very quickly is to, let's say, provide an overview at system level and at school level of the pilot, what we are going to do in the next month as of today. I would quickly move to the next slide. And this is, okay, this is basically the timeline for this project. Let's say we don't have now time to go through all the steps, But what I want to highlight that actually with the Azerbaijani authorities, mainly with the Ministry of Education and the Bureau for ICT, we were already discussing this project last year. We made, let's call a feasibility. And then we work to prepare the pilot of today, including the appointment of the SELFIE national coordinator. And at the bottom of the slide, you see all the partners in this project. Now, jumping to the very end of the process, we aim at it, let's say, to deliver a report at the end of the process, including key findings and policy recommendation for a possible upscaling of SELFIE, thinking already to the next school year, where we should expect really some more normality and not anymore, I hope very much so, of lockdowns. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is basically the methodology for the analysis of the outcome of the pilot of SELFIE in Azerbaijan. And for the tool that we will use for the formulation of a set of policy recommendation, we have already concluded, let's say, the first 3 steps. Now we will look to the final remaining steps upon conclusion of the pilot in 3 weeks, let's say. And now what I'm going to do is to look to the next steps that we are going to run upon the conclusion of the pilot in the 12 school. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. So in the next 3 weeks, let's say the school will run SELFIE involving school leaders, teachers, and students. And the first step upon conclusion will be a qualitative and a quantitative analysis of the outcomes. Let me say a few words. Okay, the quantitative analysis will be based on anonymized aggregate data. And the quality analysis will include a case study focusing on the run of SELFIE in one school, plus at least 2 focus groups, one involving the national stakeholders and one involving the schools. So we want to really hear from you about the process, about the feedback from the teachers and students. And this is really a way to ensure a quantitative and qualitative analysis of the pilot outcomes. Next slide, please. Well, this is another important step that we have to undertake upon conclusion of the pilot. So analyzing the data, we want also to, during the qualitative analysis, let's say we will discuss how SELFIE could be integrated in the national education and training system. For example, to reinforce, this is just an example, of course, but it happened in other countries that it has been framed the use of SELFIE in the quality assurance system for digital education, and to also to foster innovation in teaching and learning, because the capacity of a collective self-reflection and the thinking on how to use digital technology, it's also to create new way of learning. And also, let's say, to reinforce the bottom-up dimension of policymaking. We are still in the emergency. but nothing could have happened with the active involvement of schools. So I think the bottom-up dimension of policy making is increasingly important, with schools that should become more proactive and accountable for the successful use of digital technology. Next slide, please. And still, as a part of the qualitative analysis, we have to think about the governance of SELFIE. I mean, this is, of course, I can already say should be strongly embedded in the governance for ICT in education. And here we have the privilege to have with us the Bureau of ICT, of course, will play a very important role. But let's say, for sure, we have already appointed a SELFIE national coordinator. Natavan was essential to coordinate the translation, to identify the sample of schools to involve, and etc. But we already identify another key profile, that is the SELFIE school coordinator. In the middle, we might have other actors to be involved according to the governance model of ICT in the country. Next slide, please. The last of my slide, I'm going quickly, and then we will have also the second part where we can go in more details. It's very, very important that in the final report, discussing, especially with the national stakeholder, but also with the school, we identify the CPD initiatives that are necessary. From the panel, another important takeaway was, okay, teachers must be involved, the teacher must be digitally competent, absolutely. And in all documents from OECD, from the European Union, it's very clear that education will remain a labor-intensive part of our society. And the teacher will remain at the heart of the human learning. So it's very important that if Azerbaijan intend to scale up SELFIE, it's very important to define CPD initiatives. But do not forget that SELFIE is a community of 70 countries. There is a lot of interest from the European Commission, the JRC is keep working, as Eva was mentioning. So I mean, you are not alone. And so I think there is a lot of knowledge sharing with the other countries that are doing a similar path. And I want to highlight here another important point. Students are involved. You are going to, the SELFIE school coordinator are going to send a link in order to fill in the questionnaire. And let me say that if I am a student that I'm studying in Azerbaijan, but my mother tongue is Turkish, for example, well, I can select Turkish from the language because it's already there. Turkey already piloted the SELFIE. So, I mean, but what I want to say that this is a message for the SELFIE school coordinators. Before sending out the links to who you intend to invite to join the pilot, please explain the exercise. Even the students from home, you need to have a session where you say why we are doing this. It's not to test your digital competencies or whatever, or to make a test of you. It's anonymized. You can say really genuinely what you think about the use of technology in your schools or online in this moment. So CPD will be an important topic in the final report. Next slide, please. And this is my very last slide. In this final report, we have to identify together, assuming that SELFIE is run on a regular basis, for example, once a year on voluntary basis. So schools can decide or not to do this exercise. But let me say that school that decided to invest on this innovation process should be valued somehow. That is important. But it's very important to identify a period of the year that is not overlapping with exams, or disturbing the schools. The schools are already very, very busy. They have a full calendar. So it's very important to identify a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks that are well fitting the calendar of the school. Okay, this was my last slide. Now I would pass the floor to my colleagues from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, Nicoletta.
I might actually take it for a...
Oh, yes, sorry.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Very informative. And I can see from the chat that you provoked actually curiosity, and there were questions in the chat. They were asking what SELFIE stands for. Nicoletta and Lilian already replied. I also shared the link to the European Commission webpage on SELFIE, dedicated to SELFIE, where you can retrieve additional material. But as I already anticipated, you can ask questions in the chat all the time in Azerbaijani or in English, and we will do our best to address the questions you are asking us. But now it was so interesting, the presentation of Alessandro, that he mentioned different steps that they are key and they are very important for the integration of SELFIE into the system, that I would like to revert back to you, dear participants. And I would like to ask you with another poll to please try to think and try to list which are the two top steps, the steps more important for an effective integration of SELFIE in Azerbaijan, in the system. You have 5 options. We will open a poll. Here is on the screen. So the step that you can select are review of SELFIE pilot results, integration of SELFIE in the wider digital education policies, or SELFIE governance strategy, SELFIE integration in wider continuous professional development programs, or SELFIE annual review cycle. So these were all steps that Alessandro described, and we would like to ask you which, in your opinion, are the most important steps. You can, I think the poll is open.
I think these are the 5 steps that we have in front of us.
Exactly.
And we wanted really to ask you which are in priority, because this is affecting our work. No? So we would like to hear from you which one you would like the report to focus on. You can select 2 of them, the top 2 steps that we have to take care of. Over to you, Ermina.
Thank you, Alessandro, and thank you, our producer. So the poll is now closed. Thanks for making your choice. Thanks for participating. I might, if Nicoletta, what do you think? Would you like to comment directly the results of the poll, and then you take it over with the presentation? Thank you, Nicoletta Giannazzo.
Thank you, Ermina, and thank you very much to Azerbaijan for their interest and for ETF for giving us this opportunity. I think I can see that the integration of SELFIE in wider digital education policies is the is the most prioritized one, and I think this is really important to see this response, because SELFIE has a very interesting, let's say, property here, because SELFIE connects the needs of the school with the digital education policies of the different countries. But at the same time, as Alessandro mentioned earlier, SELFIE being a European, or let's say not just a European tool, I would think that's an international tool. You saw that 74 countries are using it. So it connects like the very local of the school with the national, which is the educational policies, the digital education policies of the country, with the international, what happens at international level. I'm really pleased to see that colleagues here think that this is important for them as well. So yeah, Shall we move on then with some practical steps now? What we expect from to happen with the school when they take the selfie exercise. I will briefly refer to this, and then my colleague Lilian Wyket Garcia will guide you through the selfie tool so as to demonstrate exactly what the tool looks from inside and what the school coordinator is expected to do. So first thing first, where we are, and that's a timeline showing starting from today until the completion of the selfie exercise. We are on the 3rd of May, and what's going to happen today later on is that the school coordinators will sign up and adapt the tool to their school. In 2 weeks' time, we expect that the survey will be completed back then. And on the 24th of May, the schools will receive the selfie report, which will include the responses to the selfie exercise and the selfie questions. I will refer to this later on again, but just to say that this difference is because you will have 2 weeks. We said that you will have 2 weeks to complete the selfie, to answer the selfie questions. But in essence, we give 1 week more in case there are some problems or people cannot make it within the 2 weeks. But the idea is to try and be consistent and complete the exercise until the 17th of May. This is an important part, but also an important and interesting part, but it doesn't stop there when you receive the selfie report. We have planned that on the 2nd of June, you will start what we call collective analysis of the outcomes. And what does this mean? It's like as soon as you receive the report, and we mentioned that selfie involves the whole school community, the idea is the school community, not only the school coordinator or the school leaders, but also the teachers. And it will be really great if you could involve students as well to discuss the results, to see what the responses are, and try and decide what is going to be your plan to develop a digital strategy. I will say a couple of things now with respect to the digital strategy, and we will refer to this again and again throughout the day, is try to be realistic. You know, don't try to put very many things to be done within, let's say, the next couple of months or the next year, because that's not the purpose. What needs to be done is to look at the report, look at the needs of the school and the priorities of the school, and also link this to the priorities of the digital strategy of Azerbaijan as well. And the idea is to create the plan for improvement and to implement it within the next school year, because now we're approaching towards the end of this school year. Next slide, please. Thank you. So very, very quickly, what the school coordinator will be doing, and it's something that it will happen more or less up to a certain stage today. First thing, the school coordinator will register the school on the selfie platform and will determine the timing of the selfie exercise, how much time the schools will have to respond to the selfie questions. The school coordinator will also select who will take part in the exercise, how many teachers, how many students, and to whom they're going to send this the selfie questions. And then I think Alessandro mentioned it, and we will refer to it again, is that the school coordinator should select the questions that are going to be included in the selfie questionnaire. Selfie has a set of core questions, but it also has optional and ad hoc questions. After this is done, the school coordinator will share the links to the school managers, teachers, and students. And then we go towards the end of the timeline. It's the things I was describing before, that we expect that the school community, when they receive the results, they discuss, they set priorities, and they set the plan for development. Again, very practically, and this is very well described in the selfie guide for school coordinators. they sign up their school, they select the education level their school is at, might be primary, might be lower secondary or upper secondary school, might be vet, right? They will set up the questions, they will select the dates for the survey, and will activate and send the links. Now here, some key aspects. We mentioned this earlier. The selfie exercise is planned to last 2 weeks, and this is what your students and teachers will be receiving as a deadline. However, in the selfie system, it will be like 3 weeks, always trying to have some time in case something doesn't go as planned, so as to make sure that everybody is on board and that they manage to complete the exercise based on the numbers you have decided to participate. And also you can monitor how many of the participants have answered the exercise live. How long does it take? We have calculated this, and we saw that for school leaders and teachers, it takes about 40 minutes, whereas for the students, it takes about 20 minutes. As Alessandro mentioned, it is good, especially when it comes for the students, to devote a specific time that they take the selfie exercise and not just leave it on their free time. Of course, you know your students best, but from what we have seen, it works like really well if the school teachers devote, like we said, like takes 20 minutes for the students, you can devote like 1 teaching hour or half an hour for them to complete the selfie exercise and be there in case they have some questions to ask. One important thing, and this is related to the anonymity and the efforts we're putting to preserve the anonymity of the selfie responses, you need to respond to the questionnaire within 2 hours from when you start. You cannot just start now, save the results and return to it the next day, or I don't know, or later on. And this is important because the tool doesn't save any data of you, so as to be able to preserve the anonymity we mentioned before. We mentioned earlier that the school leaders, the school coordinators select who will take part. We mentioned that the selfie questionnaire involves school leaders, which will be the head principal and teachers in the coordination role. Teachers, and it is important that the teachers who participate, they have at least 1 year in service. And this is, this, let's say, restriction is because we expect that the teachers are in school a sufficient amount of time in order to be able to have some knowledge what is happening with the school. And when it comes to students, especially when we're speaking about primary school, we expect that students aged from 9 and over participate. And this is because we have seen that younger students might have difficulty in understanding the questions in selfie. I have to say that in the different education levels, the questions are adjusted, the language is adjusted, so it's more comprehensive, let's say, for students at the primary school or in secondary school. But there is a very expected question, like how many for each respondent group, how many teachers, how many school leaders, how many students. And here we have an example from the selfie guide for the school coordinator, which is very useful. You can see a table with some indication. Here I have on the right-hand side. Oh, can we move on to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
Apologies,
I think,
because we have missed it.
We have to quick.
Next.
Yeah.
And next. Apologies for this. And the next one. Okay, thank you. Here you can see that if the school has up to 10 teachers, for example, then you need to involve at least 8 of them. If you have a small group or a small school, then you need to involve at least 8 teachers in the selfie exercise. On the other hand, if you have a very big school, let's say above 500 teachers, you can involve the 10%, which is approximately, it's 50 teachers. And you will find a similar table for the number of students and the number of school leaders in the SELFIE School Coordinator Guide. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, here we are. About the survey, what we expect to happen with the school coordinator who will be setting up the SELFIE exercise for the school is to customize the SELFIE surveys, and it's launched. Alessandro, I think, mentioned earlier, and you will see when Lilian, my colleague, will be presenting the tool, that SELFIE has 3 different types of questions. One is what we call the core statements, and they are obligatory in a way. You will need to answer them. The second type of questions is what we call optional statements. Here, the school coordinator will decide if which of these questions is meaningful to be included in the tool. And there is the possibility for the school coordinators to add questions which are customized and look very much into the specific profile and the needs of the school. Here, in the where the school can create their own statements, you have the option to copy paste from the set of questions we created for blended and remote teaching and learning, and look at them and choose those which you think that they are relevant or they are important for your school. And I would like to point out something here. You might see one question and you might realize, oh, I have not been doing this in my school. But if you are interested in developing your school towards the direction that the question asks, let's say flipped classroom, or let's say supporting my students to develop technical knowledge about how to use technologies, then even though you might have now a lower score, it is important that you include this kind of question in the questionnaire so as to be able to do something about this and improve. I think Alessandro mentioned it also as well, that SELFIE is not about scores. It's not about having, because SELFIE operates in a 5 degrees Likert scale, in having 5 in everything, because then you don't need SELFIE. What is important is to, even if you have a low score in somewhere, what is important is the progress. For example, to move from 2 to 2.5, or even from 1 to 1.5. And Alessandro, and I want to stress that the results are anonymous and they go back to the schools. So it's something for your own progress. And I think this is also, because all of you, I understand, most of you are teachers as well. It is really important to be honest with what you can do and you cannot do. And I mean, we're not great in everything we do, but it's important to identify, okay, this is an area which I'm not that good and I want to develop, right? And after you decide, and deciding which questions, which will be the optional and which will be the questions you will add so that they fit the profile of your school, is not something that has to be done very quickly. It needs thinking, as I said, because it determines also which are the steps that the school is going to take towards developing their digital strategy and plan. So as soon as you finish with choosing the optional questions and creating your own statements or copy pasting from the list of questions we have prepared for blended learning, then you're ready to launch the surveys. You generate a set of links which can be sent to teachers, school leaders, and students. And once this is done, there is no way to change anything in the survey. I mentioned before, as soon as you launch the SELFIE exercise, the school coordinator is able to monitor how many participants will be have answered the SELFIE questionnaire. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next slide.
Yes, to the last one that should come, it's about the reporting.
No, it's like
Ah,
we're
oh,
one
yes.
before the last, but it's about the reporting. As I mentioned before, as soon as the time is completed that we set for the selfie exercise that is set within the system, then selfie generates a report. It's anonymized and it is designed for the school to use it. So you can see from this report how many participants responded to the questionnaire. You can have an overview of the results of the responses per area in the form of graphs, and also per user groups. And selfie, as I said, it's about progress. And it's not something that we expect to do it only once and finish with this. It's something that if you want to monitor progress, the idea is to run selfie again after you have implemented your strategy and see how and where things have developed, where more action needs to be taken. We said, Alessandro mentioned it, and I want to stress that this report is accessible only to the school who is running selfie. And in the next slide, can we go to the next slide, please? You can see an example of the selfie report. This is one of the graphs, and it's an overview for the teachers. And you can see an average response for teachers for all statements. And this is if you look at the report, which is in the tool, you can move your cursor on the different lines there, and you can see the actual question so that you understand which question a specific, let's say, line refers to. You can see the different colors corresponding to the different areas of the selfie exercise. And you can also receive this. This is an interactive report, which is generated within the tool, but you can also receive this report in a PDF. So I think this is it from me. This was my last slide. I hope this was a very quick but comprehensive way of presenting what happens with the school coordinator and what we expect to do. And we will see more from Lilian in the second part. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed, Nicoletta, and thank you, Alessandro. It was a very, very informative, and I can see from the chat that you provoked many questions. So some questions were already addressed in the chat, but I will leave 2 more minutes to Alessandro to wrap up, and if there are any burning questions, you can also take them. Please,
okay,
Alessandro.
Thank you very much, Ermina. Thank you for participating so actively, for making questions. This is very important. We try to answer. Now, it's very important to recall some of the questions that were in the chat. Selfie is firstly for your school, okay? It's not for comparing school. You need, if you start comparing, the exercise could be jeopardized. If I have a scale from 1 to 5, I want to compare my school with the other, I could put everything to 5 and the question is solved. I mean, this is why we recommend school to share the 3 links to the school leader, teachers, and student to explain the exercise. Before sending this, to customize, to decide who to involve. This is another important aspect. In the selfie guidelines that has been translated in Azerbaijani already, you see the criteria. On the basis of the sites of the school, you should at least invite XXY teachers and students and school leaders. So having this information, you need to say, okay, now which are the ones involved? For example, if you have a new teacher that has started this year, does not really probably have enough understanding of the school to invite this teacher to make an assessment of the digital capacity of your school. So concerning this is what I wanted to connect into the question. Another important point is, let's say, that the 3 points that we have on the slide, if we can open the slide. So what you should see SELFIE. SELFIE is about empowering your school. This is the point 01, empowering your tools, and SELFIE gives you the opportunity to engage all the school community. This is very important, including the students. Then from SELFIE, and the SELFIE report that Nicoletta just described, okay, you can discuss with the participant with those you invited in the SELFIE run, to discuss the outcomes. You might focus on the major difference. You might see that the school leader have a very good opinion on a statement, while the teachers are very low. So I think this is something that has to be discussed, and we have to see what could have been done. So rather than sharing the result of SELFIE, that this is very useful for the schools, okay, it's very important to share what you plan to do. Maybe one priority, 2 key actions in a way that really you focus, you have a so-called smart objective to achieve, and you see in 1 year whether you manage to do. Because what you can do is to compare the result between 2 runs within your school. And this is another important aspect, but everything will come in the second part. But let's say at system level, what SELFIE can give is to look to the anonymized aggregate data. So data in a way that cannot really identify one specific school, but give for CPD, for the assessment, the overview in the country for general education, for vocational education, and so on. So this is the information that you could expect and support that you can expect to receive. And now we are running a bit late, so I think I have to pass the floor back to Ermina to close the first part of this event. And so over to you, Ermina, and then in the second part, we try to answer to all the very good questions we are receiving, unless we want to give the floor to some of the participants. Up to you, Ermina.
Indeed, thank you, Alessandro. And it was not possible to stick to the time because the content is so rich and so actually interesting that we are running a bit behind the schedule, but it's not a problem. I will briefly explain how the next session will be organized, but I might also propose, Alessandro, if you agree, that if there are colleagues not participating in the breakout rooms that would like to stay for the next session, they might have the opportunity to dialogue and to discuss with you and to
Absolutely.
Nicoletta and to Lilian. So we have more time actually to engage in dialogue on this very, let's say, interesting open questions that they were raised in the chat, because I saw that there were questions also concerning the implementation of the development plan, how to address the questionnaire in order to suit the students and the teachers. So I can see that the participants are very keen actually to learn more. So if we can see on the next slide, I will briefly wrap up the organization of the next session.
Mm-hmm.
After the coffee break, we will work on an hands-on training for the school representatives. We have 12 schools selected by the Minister of Education to participate in the pilot. There will be breakout rooms dedicated to the 12 schools, 1 room for each school, with 3 participants in each room: the SELFIE school coordinator, the proxy, and the principal. We will have a demo, so demonstration on the screen by the colleague Lilian from the Joint Research Center, and then participants will go for a set of exercise in the breakout rooms. the rooms will be also animated by Natavan and by Amin. They will be only in Azerbaijani without interpretation, but the SELFIE national coordinator and the SELFIE expert will be there available to answer any questions and any doubts. So if we go on the next slide, we can see the list of the schools and how they will be divided into breakout rooms. For the participants who will leave now, who will leave us now, let me thank them for participating in the meeting, and I would kindly ask you to fill the feedback questionnaire. Our producer is sharing in the chat the link to the feedback questionnaire. It's very important for ETF to understand if the meeting actually met your expectation and how we can improve in the future. So I think we all very well deserved a cup of coffee and a short break. I don't know, Alessandro, if you agree, maybe we can have a 10 minutes break and
yeah, definitely we need a break. But what I wanted to highlight that the schools now have really the hands-on sessions and they go in breakout group, as Ermina was saying. I will remain in the plenary with the colleagues of the JRC, and we have a more conversational, of course, we have the interpretation service. So if you want to stay until the end, you are more than welcome. So I'm talking about the national stakeholders or the other participants that are not from school. We will stay in the plenary and we can talk and discuss and better understand, while the schools with the SELFIE school coordinators that are the moderator, they go in breakout group, they look to the dashboard to make the configuration of their school in the system. So over to you, Ermina, and I think I wish a good coffee break. We need it now,
yes,
and to stretch
so
a bit.
Just let me remind all participants to do not log out from Zoom. So please stay connected, remain connected, take a short break. We resume at 10:15. So 10 minutes break, and I see you soon. Thank you very much.
Be on time, please. Bye.
Thanks. Welcome back, everybody. We are starting the second part of the meeting. So I hope you enjoyed a cup of coffee or maybe a cup of tea, more common in Azerbaijan. I will briefly explain again the design of the next session. If we can have the slide deck on, please. So as anticipated before, this session is to put in practice all what we, let's say, already introduced Alessandro and Nicoletta. It's a session, hands-on training session designed and dedicated for the schools involved in the pilot. And it will be organized around three main topic areas: the school profile and who to involve, the questionnaire, how to tailor the questionnaire, and a third part focusing on the after the exercise, the reports, the results, and the certification. For each part, we will have a demo presented on the screen by Lilian Weikart Garcia. Lilian, she's the best person to show us how the tool works, because she was involved since the beginning in the development and in the upgrade of the tool. And then we will go in breakout rooms. There will be 12 breakout rooms, one for each school, with 3 participants each. And you will work with a set of exercises. There will be a shared Google Doc where you can add your answers and your input. The breakout room will be moderated by the SELFIE school coordinator. So while the other participants will stay in the plenary, and we can, as we said before, we can dialogue if there are questions with the person that they are not involved directly in the breakout rooms exercise. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty much how the next session will work. It will be a quite long session of about 1 hour and a half, but it's designed in a way that we should actually keep you active. So it's my pleasure to introduce the next of our speaker, Lilian Weikart Garcia. She is the technical coordinator of SELFIE at the Joint Research Center. And please, Lilian, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ermina. I am pleased to be invited to show how the tool works. I will share my screen. We share my screen. If I found it.
It's always tricky.
It's always, yes, with the show all windows, yes. Only the hidden windows is the one that I want to share. So I start sharing. I will hide the floating controls, and I hope now more or less you can see my screen without dark.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm very pleased to show how the SELFIE tool works, because it's quite easy to use, but it's also useful to see how it works, and so to promote also the use of the tool. I'm very happy to be invited to this event today in Azerbaijan. So here is the tool. This is the English version. I will log into our demo school, and once I'm in our demo school account, I will switch to the Azerbaijani language. So
if I
this
may,
process, yes, Alessandro.
while you are entering, so basically the 12 schools probably are already registered.
Yes,
so when they enter in the breakout group after this demo, they will enter the functional mailbox of the school, and they can get access to the dashboard. This is the interface. Over to you, Lilian.
Yes, this process I think I checked this today, and I think all the schools have already done this process. So they will log in today to their account. They will arrive to the same screen I'm arriving. The first time you register your school, first you have to initialize the account, set in a password, and then you will be asked on some questions on the school profile. Sorry, I wanted to change. the Azerbaijani language. As you see, I opened the language selector here. Now it's in my account in English. I opened the language selector, and here you can see the different languages that are already available on the SELFIE tool. I select the Azerbaijani, and now we can see the tool in Azerbaijani. As I said, the first time you log in on your account, you will be the school profile section will be opened, and you will be asked on some information on your school, your name, because the only data that is needed to register the school is the email. We always recommend to use an official email of the school, an email to which the SELFIE school coordinator has access. And there is also the possibility to add an additional email, that this email could be a personal email, but we always recommend not to use personal emails, because as already was said before, SELFIE is an anonymous tool. We no personal data collected, and then we also prefer not to have personal emails, but you can use a personal emails if it's needed. So here you ask on some information, the country, the address of the school, the type of management, if it's private or public school, the location of the school, if it's a rural school or a big city or located in a big city, if you have an ICT coordinator at the school, also some information about your social media, some information also how did you know about SELFIE. As you see, some of the questions are mandatory, the one having a red asterisk, and some of them are optional. Like the ones related to the percentage of students at your school coming from disadvantaged homes, or the percentage of students that which first language is not the Azerbaijani. And here also, this is a new question. We introduced this for this school year due to the COVID pandemic on the operation of the school, how the school usually operates, if only face-to-face teaching or also blended teaching. So once you have filled in this section on the school profile, you can save the profile, and then
yeah, Lilian, may I jump in here just to
yes.
say for the last question, which is about how your school is operating during the pandemic, but also during this period that you will be responding the SELFIE exercises. For example, you're completely online. Think about the periods you will be reflecting on, right? Not just last spring, for example. Yeah.
Yes. No. This on the school profile, it's a general question. Then in the questionnaire for the school leaders, there appears in the current session how they are working. But it's okay. And we also always recommend to review the school profile once a year at least, because maybe some of the information may change, during the school year.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you, Lilian, for highlighting this.
Yes, okay, thank you. Then once you have completed the school profile section, you can start.
Can I add just a point, Lilian, to this profile? Because we mentioned about email. Indeed, you can use also your personal email. The point is we do not advise this, because this is, let's say, the account for the school. So to open the dashboard for your school in SELFIE, you don't have to rely on one person only. In fact, we have invited 3 people: the SELFIE school coordinator, a proxy, and the SELFIE and the school principals. So if you use a functional mailbox and you put always functional mailboxes in the profile, this is easier because it's not a personal email. This is what I wanted to highlight. Over to you, Lilian.
Yes, you can also create an extra email account for SELFIE. You can use the official school account, email account, or you can create an extra one for the SELFIE exercise, for the SELFIE account. Okay. When we have finished with the school profile, we can start configuring the SELFIE self-reflection exercise. But before I start explaining this, I want to take you for a quick tour through the different sections of the tool, so that you see what is there and how can you use it. So first is the data privacy statement. Here we have the upcoming sessions. This section is very helpful because it informs you when the SELFIE sessions are planned. So SELFIE divides the school year in 3 different periods. The first starting from mid August until the end of the year, end of December. The second one started 1st January until mid-April, more or less. And the third one starting mid-April until mid-July. Why is this? This is because then we think the tool is more flexible, so that each school can decide when to run SELFIE in each of these 3 sessions. The school can decide to run SELFIE only once in the first session of the school year, or maybe twice in the first session and in the third session of the school year. And so the school can compare the results in the different sessions and see if some actions that the school implemented to improve some aspects of the digital capacity were successful or not. So we think having 3 different sessions makes the tool more flexible for the schools. And since SELFIE is, as Nicoletta said, not only an European tool, but an international tool, and there are a lot of different education systems using SELFIE, we try to adapt the tool to the different contexts of the schools using SELFIE. So this is the first session, the first section I wanted to show you. And you see here is the current session, and we have already the 3 next planned sessions. In the next section, we have the resources section. This section is also very useful because here you can find some different resources that will help you understand what is SELFIE and will help you also use SELFIE. The first one is a video explaining in the different steps the setup of SELFIE that we will be seeing today here also. This video is at this moment only in the English version, but we are working to have the subtitles in the different languages also soon. Here we have the school coordinator guide that, as Nicoletta and Alessandro already mentioned, is also very helpful to understand how to use SELFIE. And here you can open again the language selector and download the guide in your own language. I will not open it because we have not a lot of time. And then we have also the summary of the different questions in SELFIE. As Nicoletta said, there are 3 different types of questions. Some of them are already included in the questionnaires. Some of them are core questions, so all the will be displayed for all the schools participating in SELFIE. And some of them are optional questions that are predefined, but the school coordinator should decide to include them or not. These types of questions, core and optional, are included here in the summary of the questionnaires. And here again, you can search for your language and download it. Here we see the Azerbaijani option. And the last resource we have here in this section is one list of questions related to blended and remote teaching and learning that we included also due to the COVID pandemic to help schools create their own questions. This set from up to 10 questions that the school coordinators can create to better suit the needs of the school. We provide here a list of 12 different questions related to blended teaching and learning to help in the creation of these questions. Next to this is the certification section, where the school coordinator can request an open badge for the school. The open badge, I can show you how it looks like, is a digital badge that the school can share in their web page or in their social media, and it's like an acknowledgement for the commitment of the school to improve in the digital capacity. And also the school coordinators can request a certificate, certificate in the participation, the involvement in the creation, in the setup of the self-reflection exercise, and also in the monitoring of the exercise, of the results, and the starting the discussion in the school community. The certificate more or less looks like this. Next to the certification sections, we come to the results section. This is the most important.
May I just, Lilian,
Yes,
add
sorry.
that the certification is also for all the participants,
Yes,
no?
so sorry, yes.
And okay.
The participants, once they answer to the questionnaire, school leaders, teachers, and students, once they submit their questionnaire, they will be able to download also a certificate like this, more or less looking like this, with their name also. And this name will not be saved on the tool. This is why this certificate can be only created at this moment, only after the submission of the questionnaire. The participant can insert their name and download this certificate.
And this is normally very appreciated, I would say. So if you are inviting the students, the teachers, when I arrive to the end of the questionnaire, they can fill in this question. I would advise, let's say, to inform who is invited of this option, because normally it's appreciated, let's say.
Yes. So here is the result sections. We will have a better look after the breakout rooms, because this is the most important section after the self-reflection exercise. Well, it's part of the exercise, but it's after the period is finished. And now we come to the first section you have to work with, no, to set up the self-reflection exercise. So the first step, that is the only step that I will explain here before our first participatory activity in the breakout rooms, is the setup, select the education level you want to participate with, because you can be in a school offering different education levels. SELFIE is available in 5 different education levels: primary, lower and upper secondary education, upper secondary vocational education, and post-secondary education. So we will, for this sample, select the upper, yes, no? Sorry.
Yes, it's upper secondary. If you
no,
count.
this is the upper secondary. Sorry, because I can't speak Azerbaijani, so I have to. But I think I selected the lower secondary education. So here we see that I have already entered the participation numbers of this exercise. So in my school, there are 5 school leaders. There are 25 teachers in this level, but only 20, I will invite only 20 teachers to participate in this exercise, because 5 of these teachers started this year working at the school, and SELFIE should be completed by teachers that at least worked at the school for 1 year. And the same happens also for the students. In these education levels, we have 45 students, but I will invite only 40 of these students to participate, because of the same reasons, because 5 of them are new during this year at the school.
May I add something here,
yes.
Lilian? Sorry, because there was a question also in the chat, and I responded to it like in writing. But as during my presentation, I showed that there is a table indicating how many teachers you should involve based on the number of the teachers that they are in the school. So in the schools coordinator guide that Ermina just shared, it is in Azerbaijani, you will find a similar table for students and school leaders in order to be able to identify what is the number, the minimum number that you can involve. And as Lilian is showing now, you need to write the actual number and of the participants in the school, but then those who will be the number of people who will be involved. Am I correct, Lilian?
Yes, this is true. So the school coordinator guide explains us which should be the minimum of participants using SELFIE, but we always recommend also that the maximum of the school community participates in the self-reflection exercise, and this is how I selected the participation numbers. So I selected the maximum of the members of the different respondent groups that can participate in SELFIE to participate in SELFIE. So,
and in this respect, for vocational schools, within this number, you can decide whether to involve only vocational teachers or include also vocational and general teachers. I mean, this is up to you. Depends, maybe for the pilot, my recommendation is to have a mix of general and vocational teachers. But again, this is up to you. And this is the quantitative dimension. And then you have to decide within these 40, for example, who should be invited, no? And you might say, we just take the latest, the last 3 classes, or we go just for vocational, or there are different criteria, and everything is quite well explained in the guideline. So the idea is if you have a perception that there is a specific issue on a specific topic, for example, for vocational school, for sure, the school lockdown was a big problem for practical skills. So you might want to focus on this, but it's up to you to decide. Here you define in the dashboard how many, and then you have to think about to who to send this link. Over to you, Lilian.
Yes, as Alessandro explained, no, one of the characteristics of the SELFIE tool is that the level of customization is very high, and not only in the questionnaires creating the questions, but also in deciding who to invite to do the exercise, and deciding in which period you want to participate, and so on. So we saved the numbers, and then I think we should start with the breakout rooms.
Yes, thank you, Lilian. Thank you.
So I will stop sharing my screen, no?
Yes, indeed. And we will now invite our participants. They will be automatically assigned. Our technical producers has already worked behind the scene. Let me thank Mariam and her colleagues. So if we go back on the slide deck, I will just recap how the session will be organized. Participants will go into 12 breakout rooms, one for each school. You will have about, let's agree, 20 minutes, Alex, is that okay with you?
If we are on time. So basically, the schools go in breakout group rooms, and I stay with other colleagues in the plenary.
Exactly. So in this first part of the exercise, they will focus on signing up, profiling the school, and who to involve.
Yes, these were the topic that with Lilian we went through. So, and just to remind that Natavana and Amina, we will go through the breakout groups. So if you have any question, they can help you. We shared also the Google Doc. The SELFIE School Coordinator will moderate the breakout group. So we will share again this document, including, let's say, this Google Doc where we have table to track and to see which session has been implemented, which one no. No problem if you don't want to do something, we will discuss afterwards. And then there are some questions that we would like you to answer. Okay, I hope you have a good work. Over to you, Ermina, to open the breakout groups.
Let's go in breakout groups. Let's open and we keep them open for 20 minutes. I see you back at 11. Enjoy your exercise.
See you later.
Our producer is working behind the scene.
Yes.
In this virtual system, but I can see that the number are dropping, so means that they are actually being pulled to their rooms. And we will see who is staying in the plenary, and we might actually do a tour de table if we have some colleagues that we don't know.
At the moment we are 23, but we are still decreasing.
Is it like we are left with 22, but it's a lot of us in, no? It's a lot of us in in the plenary as well.
Yes, the interpreters and support, but I can see actually that there are also colleagues from Azerbaijan. So I don't know if the ones who stay, they want to briefly introduce themselves, or if you just prefer actually to wait for the returning of our colleagues from the breakout rooms, as you wish. Indeed, it might be a good occasion to discuss and to dialogue with the two of our speakers, or three actually, Lilian, Nicoletta, and Alessandro, who had to rush a little bit through their presentation because of a very dense agenda. But
yeah, I mean, if you want, you can open the camera and actively join us. Just for this is an opportunity to talk about what. Let me recall what the schools are doing now. No, so first of all, the SELFIE school coordinators were already appointed in advance in a way that basically they were aware of the exercise. And with Lilian and Nicoletta, we ensured that the school was registered. And let's say once they registered, given the lockdown, we have, let's say, the SELFIE school coordinator that is supposed to moderate the breakout room, the exercise, sharing the screen, so showing what is the dashboard for the school. If I may recall, the many questions we had, let's say, there was about sharing the outcomes or sharing. I think we should share the results of applying SELFIE in terms of development plan, in terms of achievement, rather than in terms of what the scores. Nicoletta, what do you think?
Sharing the progress, Alessandro, it's exactly this, I think, and that's the most interesting thing also from a perspective of policy making as well, because what is more interesting is where the schools focus their development plan. Of course, as Alessandro, as you mentioned before, when schools do the SELFIE exercise, but they do it knowing that somebody else will be looking at this exercise, then the responses are biased towards to which will be looking. Is it going to be another school? Is it going to be a ministry? And that does not help for the schools to look honestly what are the strong points or the points that they will need more development there. However, where the schools, what are the priorities of the schools, what they want to focus on is something that might be interesting also at system level. And Alessandro, maybe there's a comment I think in the chat, but I'm not sure if I can take it. I mean, because I'm not aware about this, but I just wanted to point out something.
But actually, no, they're welcome. We just submit them. There were some UNDP colleagues that they were also invited to join us.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, and we also, I think we would like to stress here that the SELFIE exercise is very well structured inside the tool. You know the steps. We have the coordinators making the school, asking, like registering the school, sending out the links, answering the questionnaire. And also in the SELFIE coordinators guide, you will see an example on how to create, let's say, an action plan. But the most challenging thing and the most interesting thing as well, I think it's to decide what will be the priorities, where the school will focus, and also decide. And I think this pilot is really great opportunity to see what kind of support they might need at the system level. And I think it's really great that the European Training Foundation has the role of the national coordinator and the expert in supporting schools in the process, in the implementation plan, but also listening to them, what they need, how they saw this exercise, because I think this is the key also for a successful implementation at national level. Yeah.
Indeed, and if I might actually revert the question to you, I saw from the chat that they were also somehow anxious on how to implement the development plan. So they were asking who will support them in implementing this plan that should be developed after the exercise.
In designing the plan and implementing, exactly. because there are two different things, deciding what needs to be done, deciding how much time it will take, deciding what are the steps, and who will be involved in the implementation. And this in several cases might involve thinking about allocating some time to specific teachers, involving students in the support. In an event we had on the 3rd of March, we had the example of a school from Ireland who involved a group of students to train, for example, in the Microsoft 365 suite, and supporting the teachers and their fellow students during the process of the lockdown with some technical skills. They created material, they created support. And I think, I mean, there are different ideas which can be generated and in JRC, and I think that's the importance also of what Alessandro mentioned earlier. SELFIE is an international tool and has the support by ETF and JRC and the DG EAC, which is the Directorate General of Education, Youth, Culture and Sports, which we are constantly doing research. We are creating new material and supporting schools. And towards this direction, we have material in English. We have a pedagogical toolkit, which will be available to be discussed with the schools participating in the pilot and see what is useful. We have some ideas from other schools and some good practices, and we are working towards this direction. So I think, but also it needs the schools, because the schools have expertise, they have ideas. We can give some hints, but also would like to hear from you as well. What do you think that the next step should be?
I can see that there are some colleagues connected. I don't know if Zara or...
Indeed, we could invite Zara if you want
Raman
to say something.
Or colleagues involved in the projects
yes,
with UNDP. You're welcome to take the floor.
Okay, huge thanks for this event, and it was very useful. From 2019, I'm following this SELFIE program, and I have been very closely informed about it. In this stage, I want to mention that within our project, we have local coordinators who support our project at the local level, and the indicated schools are also selected school for us. Therefore, I have suggested that our coordinators will join this working group because they are local based and can support the successful implementation of this SELFIE program in Ganja, also in Baku, and also in Shaki.
Are they connected? Do you see them in the participants, or Jafar?
Jafar, Banofsha Guliyeva, and Shabina.
Jafar is with us. Hi, Jafar. And Sahin probably also.
Jafar is for Ganja?
Yes, I'm here, but unfortunately, I don't know, due to technical problem, I cannot connect with the bridge.
What I can say, Zara, that definitely the international organization, Sahina, welcome. I see you as well as Zara. Now I can see you. This is for us a very good practice. I mean, in the Eastern Europe, I mean, we are now at this moment piloting SELFIE in Ukraine. And we are in contact with international organization in Ukraine from GIZ, ILO, and others. I can't remember all now. So
Swiss
we will
Contact,
be Swiss Contact, for example. So there are. I mean, we would be great if you are in. We can stay connected, especially on what next, because of course you are on. Unfortunately, we are remotely promoting this initiative. You are on place, so this is a very participatory approach. What we are doing, involving schools, involving and your initiative could be very well connected, definitely. So what we could pencil in is a follow-up meeting at a certain moment when the schools have piloted SELFIE and see to discuss how we could connect, because we aim to do a final report where basically we would like to see options for upscaling and integrating SELFIE for a regular use, no? And if there are related initiatives that could support, that would be great. So I look for, I pencil in to have with the Jersey and the ETF and you to have a talk to see how, let's say, we can move. This is a really, SELFIE is a really very international, has a very strong basis. So I think it's not only a matter of Azerbaijan, but in other countries. I can briefly you where we have already implemented SELFIE and actually upscaled. So we will stay in touch. Thank you for this opportunity.
Huge thanks. I think there is no poll opened for Jafar, therefore they cannot join, because for me it's also there is no poll. No, this breakout rooms, I mean.
Well, because
important issue that within UNDP project we have developed strategic development plan. I think it is a crucial element to fill this SELFIE platform.
Thank you, Zara. Indeed, the breakout rooms, they were organized around 3 participants each. There are only the SELFIE school coordinator, the proxy, and the principal. And it was structured actually to work in a very small group. So that's why the breakout room session is somehow closed only for the 3 person appointed, let's say, by the SELFIE national coordinator.
Because maybe if I can jump in, hello, is the purpose is for the schools to start the SELFIE exercise for their school. That's just to initiate, instead of, you know, letting them doing it on their own, just to use this kickoff process to start with the SELFIE at their school. But I think it's really amazing that we can see the interest from UNDP for what is happening with SELFIE, because I think the most important part, which was also revealed during this period of public health crisis and for the real big challenges schools faced, it was the importance of collaborations, number one, and the importance of being synchronized and coordinating between different efforts, because there is no point, in different initiatives doing their own thing without merging or without like being aware what the others are doing, finding complementarities. And as Alessandro said, what are the next steps? I mean, in JRC, we definitely produce material and support, but it would be really great to connect also with work you are also doing on the field or the plans you are having. So I think, yeah, it's really great that you are here today.
Indeed, and now the school are reflecting how to run SELFIE in their school. So it's they are now talking about which teachers to involve, no, according to Lilian's explanation. So that's why we wanted the three of invitees from each school to closely reflect, and they do have a set of questions there are more guiding questions. They don't have really to answer now at this stage. It is a matter to see how did I select the teachers to involve, no? And as we were mentioning already in plenary, this is important. They should be senior teachers, knowing quite well the school. If you want to focus on a specific challenging aspect during this COVID-19, let's say they might want to invite a certain teacher for a certain classes, for a certain subject. So it's very important to let the school reflecting. In any case, Zara, if you want to create your own school to really touch directly, you can do it. Perhaps Lilian can give us some more information about this, but basically it's important that you highlighted that is a demo school. So you put a demo or test as a pattern in a way that is not really considered for the analysis of the aggregate data. Is it correct, Lilian?
Yes, yes. The only request is to use the word demo at the beginning of this demo school name, and then we can remove this school from the aggregated data as Alessandro said.
I don't think there is need for our schools because our schools also indicated in the list, and we will do like this. They will do own. If there is support, then we will support them. But before, it will be great that they will do their own, because in this case, as a project, we also need to know their strengths and weak sides, that we can also focus for future implementation of the project and also in order to keep sustainability. Therefore, there is no need at this stage involvement of UNDP. Just we will follow up the process.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's see, how much time do they still have?
3 minutes left. I see that there is also a colleague that she's working on the qualitative study on SELFIE impact. Sara, I don't know if you want to take the floor.
Oh, thank you.
Take the opportunity to explain how the study is going on. But I'm not sure if she has actually connection.
Hi, hello.
Hi, Sara.
Hello,
Ciao,
hi everybody.
Sara.
So, hi everybody, I'm Sara Villagra. I'm a researcher of the GESICEMIC group focused in the area of technology-enhanced learning. I'm here because I'm the scientific coordinator of the qualitative analysis on SELFIE impact, led by my colleague Yanis Dimitriadis. And we started the project at the very beginning of March. So we are now currently involved in preparing everything related to conducting the pilots in the 3 countries that are Spain, Cyprus, and the Netherlands. And it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Alessandro, and the rest of the team for the invitation. And I think that for our project is very important to learn from similar experiences on the use of this tool. And I don't know, how can I say?
So when are you, what's the timeline? When are you expecting to finalize the study, or will be end of the year? Or
yeah, this is a 9-month study, but we asked for an extension of 1 month more. So we expect to finish the project at the end of next January. So the study will be developed in 2 phases. The first phase is more exploratory explorative regarding the use of and the impact of selfie in 15 schools in the 3 countries. And the second phase is a design-based research approach, more focusing see how selfie can be used to identify problems affecting the digital strategy on each schools, and how can we can design with the help of teachers and school leaders to implement strategies to improve the digital strategy.
Oh, very, very interesting. So we look forward to seeing the result. And
Can I add just a point? This is an example for the Azerbaijani colleagues connected now in plenary of how the ecosystem and the understanding of the system is developing. So there are Erasmus project, there are this initiative that is led by the Joint Research Center about understanding about the ecosystem overall. So that's why we are not just talking of a tool. Selfie is a system, is a platform that is really allowing, while we are talking, they are coming back from school. Welcome back to everyone. And we had, for your information, had also a very interesting conversation with UNDP and other from colleagues from a research institute that are undertaking some further development of selfie in the meantime. But welcome back, and over to Ermina to restart immediately and entering in the second part of the hands-on session.
Yes, then thank you, Alessandro. I might ask Natavan or Amin that they were directly involved in the breakout rooms. How did it go? If there were any burning questions that they really need an answer at this stage. Natavan, Amin, something major that you want to report at this stage, or?
Hello, salam, hörmətli tədbir iştirakçıları. Thank you very much, Ermina, for the flow. Mən deməli breakout, yəni qruplara qoşulma tapşırığında
during the breakout rooms, I joined 6 groups. I saw what are they doing. These were the groups that covered secondary education schools, and in our groups, they completed the school profiling, so they were doing further discussions, and I think they didn't face any challenge or problem at the beginning. Everything seems okay there. If Mr. Amin doesn't mind, I want to turn floor to him. Thank you, Natavan. I also participated in some groups. I would say majority of schools already passed this process, even after registration process. What is the number of staff? What is the number of students there? Which part of them they want to involve? They filled in those forms, and it's impossible to do changes to these forms. So this is all. Thank you.
Great. So I now pass the floor to Lilian for her second part on the questionnaire. Correct, Lilian?
Muted. Okay. Now I will share my screen again to continue with the demo of the tool. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. Good. So after we have selected the education level with which we want to participate in this self-reflection exercise, we come to the most important step of the configuration of self, and this is the customization of the questionnaires. As I said, there is a high level of customization in the tool, and this is the customization of the questionnaires is the most important step of the configuration. We select again the education level we are working with. It was the upper secondary education. And we have here again access to the two resources we have seen before in the resources section, the summary of the questions and the list of questions related to remote and blended teaching. And we start. Here we have also access to the core questions of the questionnaires. As we already mentioned several times, there are 3 different types of questions in the SELFIE questionnaires. The core, the mandatory ones that are displayed in for all the different schools. The questions are organized in 8 different areas, as Alessandro mentioned before: the leadership, collaboration and networking, infrastructure and equipment, and so on. If we open one of these areas, we can see of the questions that are related to this area. And we see the statement of the questions. First, we see the respondent group, school leaders, teachers, or students. Then we see the statement of the question. We see the answer options for these questions. Most of the SELFIE questions have a 5 Likert scale answer options, starting from I strongly disagree to I strongly agree. And we offer always also an escape option and not applicable option, or I prefer not to respond. And here we can open the help text from the statement. The help text explains us when we should select the 5, the strongly agree option.
May I add something here, Lilian, that it's quite important that you read the help text, because it explains in more details the question, and it's in order to respond in a way which is reliable. It is important that you have understood very well when you should give a 5 or something less. So do not, I would encourage not when the teachers and the students and the school leaders are completing this, the questionnaire, to definitely look at the help text.
Yes.
And if I may add another little details on this. So it's very important when you send out the link, you explain and you give this guideline that Nicoletta was mentioning. If it's not clear to you, Natavan and Amina were really paying a lot of attention to use the pedagogical words they are using in Azerbaijani. But because it's a pilot, it's also now the moment to see the quality of the translation. On top of this, notice that, for example, for leadership, normally the questions are for school leaders and teachers and not for students, because, but not in all cases. We have questions where if we scroll down, if I remember correct, or there are in other sections, questions that are for all. For example, this is an example of questions. Well, the same item is formulated in a slightly different format, of course, if you are a school leader, a teacher, or a student. But here the students are as well involved. They can express their view. And when you see big difference among the 3 group of users, this is something that should be discussed and when you report back the results. Over to you, Lilian.
Yes, thank you, Alessandro. Yes, as Alessandro said, the questions are always included for school leaders and teachers, most of the questions, and some of them only for students, because the students questionnaire is a more easier one. It is supposed that the school leaders and teachers should complete the questionnaires in 40 minutes time, and the students questionnaire should take only 20 minutes for the students to complete it. And also the questionnaires are a bit different for primary students and for secondary students. For primary students, they have less questions and the statements are also expressed in an easier way. So we see here the different areas with the different statements. which are core mandatory displayed for all the schools. And here after the 8 areas, we can see also some other questions that are additional, that provide additional information on the digital capacity of schools, not directly related to the 8 areas of the SELFIE, but that provide also very helpful and interesting information about on the digital capacity. As an example, we have included also for this school year, running school year now, the current school year, due to the COVID crisis, some extra questions on remote teaching and learning of if positive and negative factors that make the use of digital technology easy or not from home for students, or also the access that the students have on digital devices at home as examples. So when we have analyzed these questions, we recommend that the school coordinators download these 2 files, the summary of questions and the list of remote teaching and learning questions to analyze the questions that are already included in the questionnaires, so to create their own questions and not to repeat some of the questions, because maybe they want to include one question that is already included in the questionnaire, so they can take the opportunity to create another question related to their context. When we have already seen the core questions, we can open the optional questions. And in the optional questions, there are some predefined questions that the school coordinators can decide to include in the questionnaires or not. As an example, we will include here the question from the area leadership related to the time that the teachers have to explore the use of digital technologies to improve their teaching practices. Here again, we see that these questions, if we select it, will be included in the school leaders questionnaire and in the teachers questionnaire. It will not be included in the students questionnaire. And again, we have here the statement, the answer options, and the help text indicating when we should select the 5-point scale. We will select this optional question on the time to explore the use of digital technologies, and we will also include the question from the area assessment practices related to if the teachers value digital skills acquired outside school. Here you see the question is included for the 3 profiles.
If I may, Lilian, I want to highlight that this is a dashboard of one school. It means that each school can decide about their own optional questions. Okay, this is not the configuration for all the Azerbaijani piloting school. This is, let's say, a choice of each school to include or not some of the optional questions. Over to you.
And it is not only the choice of each school, but also the choice of each school for each different education level. Maybe they want to include these questions, these optional questions in primary, but not in secondary, or the other way around. And they can configure the questionnaires as they want for the different education levels. So once we have selected the questions that we want to include in the questionnaire because we think they can help us understand the digital capacity of our school, to diagnose this capacity, we save this selection. And we go back to the previous screen. So we have seen the core question, the optional questions, we have selected some, and now we can create this set of up to 10 questions that better suit our needs. Okay, so I start. And for this is why we created the list of questions related to remote and blended teaching and learning. So as you see here, the new questions that the school coordinators create should be, the answers to these questions should have the same type of answers like the predefined questions in SELFIE, starting from strongly disagree to strongly agree. So we should write the statements so that it can be answered with these options. And here we have the text boxes for the 3 different respondent types: school leaders, teachers, and students. And we have to write the statement and the help text. So we can analyze this list of provided questions from in this PDF. And if we decide to include some of them, as an example, I will include the first one related to the effective use of learning, digital learning environment, virtual learning environments. We can select, I will try to do this. No.
Yeah, otherwise, because
we
we are
can,
running a bit
yes,
late.
so
Yeah.
I will only, we can copy and paste. So I will copy only one sentence, one word, so that you see how it works. We can copy it here, and the same for the help text. And we can also, again, decide if we want to include these questions for all the 3 profiles, or only for 2, or only for 1. I will do it this way now, because
while Lilian is writing, I would say for the pilot, I would advise to add one optional question by all schools, just to get confident and of course try to think to a specific issue that you want to test. But please try to insert one questions for your school, creating a new one. Over to you, Lilian.
So as you see, I have created 2 different ad hoc questions, one for school leaders and teachers, and the second one for teachers and students. So once we are okay with this creation, we can create up to 10, as I said. We go back again to the previous section.
And until we go back, maybe very quickly, Lilian, to point out that it doesn't really matter if your school hasn't done anything with respect to the additional questions, for example, hasn't done anything with respect to flipped classroom, or I don't know what else. If you are interested in developing in this area, I would urge you to choose one of the questions, put it in the SELFIE questionnaire now. It doesn't really matter if you have a low score, because what matters if taking this into account, create a plan to progress, and in the next SELFIE session, you have progressed a little bit.
And also you can decide to include other kind of questions, not only the ones that we provide in this list of questions related to remote teaching and learning. If you have done, as an example, a workshop on robotics in your schools, and you want to get the feedback from teachers and students, you can create one question related to this and add it to the questionnaire. So once we have customized the questionnaires, we can check, review the questionnaires to see, to be sure that we will have the questionnaires as we want them to look like. So as an example, we will open the preview of the teacher's questionnaire. And here you see first an intro text explaining what I said before, that it will take more or less 40 minutes to fill in these questionnaires, and explain also that the participant has the option to change the language, to select the language in which he or she prefers to answer to the questionnaire, because maybe Azerbaijani is not its first language, so they prefer to answer in Italian if they are Italian students or teachers in this case. So we will keep with the Azerbaijani. If we check, and also it's very important, it's a critical step in the participation in SELFIE as participants, that this language can be changed, but only at the beginning of the questionnaire, because if you change it later, it will remove all the answers and you have to start again. This is also very important, that the school coordinators explain this to the participants in the exercise. So we click on next, and then we see the questionnaire. So you can see here again, we have the title of the area, first starting with infrastructure and equipment, and then a brief definition of this area and the items, the statement, help text, and the option to select from 1 to 5, and always the escape option there. We can go through the different areas. We can check here in this area. This is the assessment practices. If the optional question that we selected is included, and we can see yes, it is included on the valuing the digital skills acquired outside school. Okay. Here we see as you see, the ad hoc questions, the questions created by the school. I added 2 questions to the teacher's questionnaire. And in the 2 last sections, we have some information about a bit about you, some information on gender, age, for teachers, if they feel confident using digital technologies. And in the last section, we have the questions on the satisfaction on the tool. And here is also the only open questions that we have, where maybe in the pilot you can use these questions to provide some feedback of the tool.
Thank you.
Yes, this is all. Yes.
Thank you very much, Lillian. We are indeed running a bit behind schedule, but I think it's very important for our school colleagues to put in practice what they listen, what they learn from your side. So you know the setting and the setup. You will go again in breakout rooms. Should we agree, Alessandro, to keep 20 minutes? So to allow...
Well, actually, I would go for 10 minutes because it's important to shorter. Otherwise, we are really running late. Let's make it shorter. Focus, let's say, on the optional questions and to create 1 new question. Okay.
They were just asking Alessandro and Lillian if actually they can continue editing the questionnaire after. And I think that the answer is yes. So
absolutely.
They can be reassured that they can test, they can probably explore a little bit the different features, and then they can resume with the colleagues afterwards and do complete the questionnaire, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So now you started, don't worry, we will explain how to proceed, but you have time tomorrow also to continue your discussion. So I would go straight forward now to the breakout groups.
So 10 minutes, thank you, Mariam, to open the rooms again. Thank you.
Wishing a good work. Okay, now, so basically the schools are returning back. We took some extra time to explain about the question, how to select the bank of questions available. And Nicoletta, perhaps, so how many questions they do have optionally available? What are the subjects? How they are clustered?
You mean the questions, Alessandro, for remote teaching and learning, correct?
Yes.
So I just wanted also to, and thank you very much, because this is very relevant to the discussion. There are some questions which are integrated inside the tool, and these are not optional. And they are looking how the technologies are used at home, because with remote teaching and learning or in blended learning, it's really important that students have some kind of support, not only on the technical aspects, on how they use technology, but also on understanding the homework that is given to them, the structure, how to structure their time. So there are questions which look at the students and how, what kind of infrastructure they have available. They look at even the space, because at some time it's really important when you're at home, and probably you're people who are here, they already know it, that when you don't have an appropriate space with dedicated time and having a quiet space to study, things become very complicated and difficult. And of course, there are issues related to internet connectivity, having a device to use, and these are inside the tool. And then there are a set of other questions which the schools can copy paste, as Lillian showed, And these focus more on what we call pedagogical approaches and teacher continuous professional development. And maybe I can give a couple of examples here. One example is what we call flipped classroom. And that was a trend that appeared, and it is supported internationally by an initiative which is called Khan Academy, and it offers basically some videos on different topics. But people are, the teachers here know well that this is an old practice. I mean, when I was a student as well, my teacher would say, you know, have a look, study the material for the next class at home, and then come back in school with your questions, what you don't understand, explain it to your fellow students. So this is more or less a similar idea. And with blended learning, we have seen that this works particularly well. Instead of having the students all the time in front of the screen, the idea might be that they study the lesson, which is for the next day. And when they meet in the classroom via the computer, with their teacher and their fellow students, they discuss things they don't understand. They take this a little bit further instead of having somebody broadcasting and telling them and you know, saying what's in the book. Yes, Alessandro.
And these are so examples for the optional, for the new questions.
For the questions the schools can create.
Create. So of course the school can create its own questions, but there is this bank of data questions, let's say, that are definitely a good reference, and they can pick up the questions. So from this
exactly,
question
and I think,
bank. Okay.
Yeah, and I think Alessandro, as we pointed out, don't think like, okay, I'm not doing this, I'm not including the question. This seems interesting. Our school would be good to work on this area, and in this case, use the question and see what you can do to support it. And I think another aspect which was quite interesting as well was supporting students to help each other and help their teachers as well, especially in blended teaching and learning. And this is something which creates also a sense of community, of support. And, you know, even knowing how to ask for help on an issue, it's not a simple thing. You have to understand well the topic in order to ask a question which is good, in order to receive a good answer. And also another thing which is very important when learning takes place at home is using technologies to help students plan their work and manage their time. Because it's not easy when, I mean, and we have seen this with teleworking as well. It's not easy to manage your time when you're working from home.
Absolutely. I can confirm it's not.
Yeah.
So
out of curiosity, Nicoletta, in how many countries SELFIE was already implemented around the world?
It's 74 countries. We have accounts from schools. It's not like it's every school in this country is using SELFIE, but we have an interest from countries like Portugal, for example, since April is using SELFIE with all their schools.
So it's been integrated into the national system.
Exactly. So they're using SELFIE with all their schools. I think, Alessandro, were discussing that in Serbia they had a similar interest at some point.
In Montenegro for sure. In the Western Balkans in general, they made quite an intensive use. But especially in Montenegro, the Ministry of Education organized already CPD initiatives for all, and this is. Let's say a package for digital learning that is including SELFIE, that is promoted in all of the public schools. So it's a similar approach. And now going back to the process, to what the school they are doing. So we do have this question bank that is so developed by expert, I would say. So these are really well prepared and reflected. So it's definitely now we have a very short breakout group session because we try to gain some time. But of course, they now start reflecting on the questionnaire. I hope very much, this is something that I will recommend on closing, that they keep discussing today and tomorrow in a way that they finalize the questionnaire. So in few minutes, and this is because they have really to see the flexibility of the tool. In the end, they have to assess to what extent the SELFIE is useful for their schools. And to do this is important that they take benefit of all the flexibility. So this, the core, the optional, and the additional ones.
And I think, Alessandro, it was a very good sign the question colleagues had, if they can go back to the questionnaire and modify the questions. Because this, I mean, of course, now it's a kickoff. It's really important that we are there when they start registering the schools and putting the questions together. But it's really good that the schools are interested in looking back at the questions, discussing probably with other teachers and the school leaders which of the optional questions are relevant, which of the questions we offer on blended teaching and learning are relevant. And also, as Lilian pointed out, if they have done something in their schools, like a robotics classroom, and I know that from the presentation at the opening panel that they have like this virtual space where all the schools have logged in and using it, might be something specific that they're interested in looking. So I would definitely prompt them to think about this and add questions.
Okay, I think, Ermina, they are coming back in a few seconds, so we should be ready to pass the floor to Lilian for the very last part. Thank you, Lilian. This is your last contributor. And let's say about the implementation. Okay, we have the, assuming that the questionnaire is fixed and is defined. I think, let's say, they could really, we might encourage while they are returning back to us to think about, to have one priority, only one for the pilot.
I agree, Alessandro. I think that's a good idea.
And perhaps to have one action so that for them it's the most important. And then the school might consider to have a project involving a set of students and teachers that should, through an hackathon, through a small project, try to really implement and find a solution and implementing it creatively, without possibly, I mean, could be that the budget is not available, but the students are there and they could find a smart way to improve the situation in the school.
Alessandro, may I add something what you just proposed?
Yeah.
I suggest that you pick, like you choose one priority and you analyze it in some actions that you want to take, like one or maybe two, because at some points you might need 2 or 3 things to do. And then I would suggest that you
Welcome back to everybody. Everybody is back. I don't know if Nicoletta, you want to keep this tip for your final remark, or
maybe go very quickly now,
okay.
just to, and then in my final remark, I have something else in mind, just to say that you choose one more thing that you would like to develop, but you don't know how to go about this. You don't know what you can do. I mean, you can say, look, I would like to develop in this direction based on the SELFIE areas, but I don't know how to do it. And since we have our national expert and national coordinator, it would be good if we record this and see how we can support the schools further down. So I don't know if you think that's a good idea, but I think it's a great opportunity now that we have Amin and Natavan on board to collect this information from the schools.
Thank you, Nicoletta, and welcome back to all schools representatives. I apologize if you had to rush through a little bit the exercise, but we will have more opportunity in the takeaway session to wrap up and to ask more questions. So let me give directly the floor to Lilian. She's now covering the last part of our demo with the afterwards. So the reports, the certification, and all the follow-up activities. Lilian, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ermina, again. Before starting with the follow-up after the exercise, I want to rush through the two last steps of the setup of the selfie exercise. The third one is to select the self-reflection period. As Nicoleta has already said, it should be minimum 1 week, maximum 3 weeks. For this pilot, we recommend that you set up the maximum period 3 weeks, but that you indicate to the participants that they have 2 weeks to respond, so that you have an extra slot of time to gather more responses. So we select the period, and then we will have the bar on participation, and here the school coordinators can monitor the real participation in the exercise, so that if they see that there is low participation, they can stress the school leaders, the teachers, or the students to still fill in the questionnaires. The last step, and the more critical one, because after this step, no more changes can be done on the setup. The participations number cannot be changed, the questionnaires cannot be changed, and also the reflection period, is to activate the links. Before activating the links, we also recommend again to review the 3 different questionnaires to be sure that this reflection period treats your calendar, and then you can activate. You will be asked if you are sure to activate them. We are sure. Okay, we activate. So after this activation, the 3 links to the questionnaires are generated. Here we can preview again the questionnaires, and we can also copy the links and share it. And we must share it with our school community. We have to share the link for school leaders with the school leaders, the link for teachers with the teachers, and the link for students with the students.
Can I say one point, Lilian? Please do not activate now,
Yes.
because Lilian, please, can you please explain why do not do this?
I was very fast. The activation is the action that ends the setup of the exercise. So after the activation, no more changes can be done. So as for this pilot, we recommend that you still tomorrow or after tomorrow discuss on the questions that you want to include to the questionnaire, and also again be sure on the period, although I know if this is predefined by the pilot.
If I may, so take at least another extra days, because when you start that process, then it's frozen. You can't change anything anymore. So it's important that you do not activate now the process in a way that you can do the fine tuning later today or even tomorrow, keeping discussing the 3 of you about all the flexible element. Over to you, Lilian.
Yes, all the work that you have done today, it is saved on the tool, so you only have to follow on with the next steps. So after the self-reflection period is ended, so after the 3 weeks that you will set, and a school report will be automatically generated in the tool, and it will be displayed here. Now we don't have any reports for the current session because our exercises are still running, but I can show you how it looks like with selecting a previous session where our demo school participated already. It participated in the primary level. I will, because we don't have much time, I will show you directly the comparison of two sessions. So as you see here, we can see a simple report from the session we selected here, or we can also compare 2 different sessions, the results from 2 different sessions. I selected the previous session and the first session of SELFIE, where my school or our school also participated, and I will see the comparison report. In the comparison report, we have at the beginning the legend of the icons that will help us understand the results. We have the 2 participation bars of the 2 different sessions, school leaders, teachers, and students. And we start with the results. At the beginning, we don't have a comparison for the areas. We have only the results of the current session, the first session we selected. Here we have the means for the area leadership, for school leaders, and for teachers. We don't have means for the for students because, as we have seen before, there are no questions for students. If you hover with the mouse on the bars, you can see the number of questions for each respondent type. Here you see school leaders and teachers have 5 questions, and students do not have any question in this area. This is the first chart that is displayed in this school report. The second visualization of the results is this one, which is item by item. Here we can see all the items together. So we can sort the items by score, by increase or decrease of the score, and also by position. And here we can see all the items together from all the areas, or we can select one area. I will select the collaboration and networking area. And here we see in the 2 first items, the results decrease from the previous session. If we hover again on the bar, we can see the statement of these questions for the different respondent types, the average of this question in this session, and the difference between the previous session. We can see the mean calculated with the 3 means of the different profiles, and we can see also the mean by each of the profiles. And here we can see also, we see for the school leaders, the result is the same in this session and in the previous one, but teachers and students, their perception is worse. And if we click on the green arrow, we can also see the frequency of answers by the selected respondent type. Here we can see 23% of the teachers responded with I strongly disagree, and 8% responded with I strongly agree. The next visualization is a comparison of the 3 respondent types. You can also play with the different, it's an interactive school report, so you can select and filter and sort the items and compare the results for the different respondent types. Here we have the visualization that Nicoleta showed before. It's the same information, but displayed in another way. And then we start with the additional information, the additional questions, not organized in the 8 selfie areas. As an example, here we have the question on the usefulness of the CPD activities for teachers. And we see also some other information organized in the same way. No, the mean for the item, this item is only for teachers. If it has increased or decreased, this has increased, and the answer options, the frequency of the answer options. This school report, each of the graphs can be downloaded as a PNG or as a PDF, so that you can create your own school report, and also an extract of this school report can be downloaded at the bottom of this page, and again in the different languages, where we can select the Azerbaijani language and download it. And here I can show you how it will look like the school report in Azerbaijani.
Okay, I think we made.
Yes.
So this is what is happening afterwards. Ermina, over to you, perhaps. But very quick. So basically, this is, I put a comment in the chat just for the Selfie School coordinator to look and to get ready to the report, because it's quite, there is a lot of opportunity, a lot of views. Please take a moment to look to the guide to see the different options and see from the guide which item to show. Does not make sense to go through all the items. It's very long. You might decide to focus on elements that for you is important to discuss. Over to you, Ermina.
Thank you, Alessandro. I might actually pass it directly to Amin because we would be very curious to hear the harvest, the feedback from the breakout rooms. How did the school coordinators and colleagues reacted in the exercise session? So Amin is the SELFIE national expert and will chair the wrap-up session. Amin, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ermina. Shifting to Azerbaijani. Teşekkür ederim.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to tell that the session was very intense, and we've received too much information in a short period of time. It was impossible to do everything that we wanted to do. In several schools, in several breakout groups where I attended, I saw that they've done some works starting from the development of the questions and others, but in others determining and also determining the period. In others, there were some technical problems with dividing into the breakout sessions, and there was a time that they've lost some time, and the time allocated for them was very limited, and therefore schools could not implement the task completely in breakout sessions, and therefore we decided after the meeting to support them and someone asked whether do you hear Mr. Amin? Someone says I cannot hear Mr. Amin. Do you hear the translation?
Very well. Go
okay,
ahead.
Great. Okay.
Yəqin ki siz ekranda görürsünüz.
And probably you can see on the screen a filled out forms. Can you see the shared screen?
Yes.
Here you can see several schools that have taken some notes with their work done. Let's move to the current situation. Mengecevir school have indicated here how many students, how many teachers will participate, and how they've determined these respondents. And there was Gabala State Vocational Center who also made some notes. We've also requested the participants to look at their survey, and we've given them some assignment with the optional questions. I don't see here any notes, and it's probably because the schools firstly need to familiarize themselves with their survey first. After going through these survey questions, they should decide what questions they've picked for their respective schools. And in a short period of time, I guess it was impossible to do this. If any schools want to comment on this, please share them with us. Or you can raise your hand or virtually, or you can hit the raise hand button. That's all. And also, I would like to talk about the next steps. And we've looked at the many schools. There were also problems with selecting the periods, the dates. Please, when you select the dates, start from this period, from this date up to 3 weeks. Please do not select more than 3 weeks. From May 3rd, as it was shown on the screen, from 3rd till 23rd, as Lilian showed it, please select the same dates from 3rd 23rd, or from 4th until 21st or 22, up until 23. I will give you a floor for the question. So next week we don't have the business working days. So in this week, you should start with the signing up and activating the links. And you probably heard that during the meeting it was told that today and tomorrow, please familiarize yourself with the survey questions, familiarize yourself with the platform, and afterwards you can activate the links and share the links with the management, with the teachers, and with the students. And afterwards, since next week is a day off, is a week off, even though we are in individual contact, we will not be able to move to the next step. And we'll look at the participation level of the schools in the survey, and in those schools that have already responded to the question, we'll start with the interviews, and we'll also organize the focus group with their schools, and at these focus groups we'll have the other participants, the representatives of the different agencies and the ministers. And the main goal of this is to discuss the survey, the results, the outcomes of the surveys, the format of the survey, how we can improve the survey in the future, and also how we can customize it nationwide, for the nationwide implementation. And here I would like to give a floor to back to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I have a question. Please.
Please.
My first question, you've already said that next week is a week off. Even though there will be we will not have individual meetings, and it may impact to their participation level at their survey during the holidays. And secondly, we have selected general education schools, and we have indicated a certain percentage. And the next assessment, are we going to do only with the same respondents, or we can add the respondents later? Thank you very much. I will answer to my knowledge, and I will ask our colleagues also to answer if they want to. First, I would like to say, with regard to the period, usually we determine 2 periods for the filling out the survey. It's not that difficult to fill out the survey. The management is required only 40 minutes to fill out their survey. For the students, it's even shorter. It's 20 minutes. So therefore, 2 weeks, we have identified 2 weeks, and the next week is the week off, and therefore we have added 1 more week to sum up all the survey. If you've selected only general education level, then only general education will be participated in this session. But in the future, I don't think there will be any restriction. I think you can select any education level, because their number of their teachers and their students could be increased in the future. But there are some limits, for example, minimum benchmarks, minimum number of their students and their teachers, and it shows only the lowest level. And it's recommended that, as what you've said, this survey should be attended by the whole school. Then in this case, the results will be more representative. It's a self-assessment, of course, but the management, as a management of the school, it's better if more of you will participate in this survey. It will help us to have a better picture of their school, as it was mentioned. After the after completing this survey, you will receive the reports which you can download, and from this report you can use you can see the general picture of the assessment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amin. I don't know if there are other questions. Any other colleagues? Or
Well, what I would like to add, if possible, is that basically you just started now the configuration. My recommendation, and I hope Amin and Natavan can support you, is to keep working on the configuration, possibly today or tomorrow, in a way that you really finalize. Of course, we apologize, was a bit in a rush everything now, but we want to go from A to Z, okay, to show you all the process. Now, taking your time, in 1-2 days, you should try to finalize with a fresh mind. If you have questions, Natavan and Amina are at your disposal in order to close the configuration, creating the links, launching the process. Now, concerning the launch of the process, I will discuss with Amina and Natavan. We were planning to start immediately after. And this is, I think, possible. We are inserting 3 weeks. So you might have someone that is more keen to work during this break week in a way that can focus, can reflect. Otherwise, when they are back at school, they can do it. It's important, however, to explain a bit the exercise, not just sharing the link. That is very, very important. So this is just just to say, you don't worry if you don't finish. You still have time to finish. This was just to kick off the process. You might use the Google document as a reference to fill in the dashboard, or go straight into the dashboard. You have all the document in Azerbaijani, and to go through and finalize with calm. Over to you, Ermina.
Thank you, Alessandro, and thank you all for staying with us. We are approaching the end of today's meeting. It was a very intense. I hope it was also very useful, let's say, for the participants from the school. As Alessandro said, Natavan and Amin, they remain available for answering any questions, and I believe you have their contacts. We are now entering into the closing session of today. We have a closing panel, and I would like to ask each speaker just to keep the floor for 1 minute and to leave participants with one key message that you think it's important to address, and to leave the participants before starting the pilot. So the floor to Natavan Badalova, SELFIE National Coordinator. Thank you, Natavan.
Thank you, Ermina. I will try to keep the timing. I know the timing is the most precious that we need now. Thank you, everyone, dear participants who take active part in this session, in this kickoff meeting. And I think we did a very good beginning because there are a lot of enthusiastic teachers and principals, coordinators who are very glad to take part in this piloting in our education, and I think it will be very good experience with these 12 institutions, schools, coordinators, principals. I would like to keep in mind that Amin mentioned we have to begin from the tomorrow, and so I am here 24 hours available for all your questions. Thank you very much for giving me a floor. Good luck to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Natavan. Thank you to you for your commitment and your support. Amin, one final remark from your side?
Teşekkür edirəm.
Thank you very much on my side also. Just one remark at the end. Maybe because we want to understand in translation all the same, that's why I want to specifically emphasize this. If you didn't complete registration, do not do it within today, because it's good if we do it together. If you didn't press get links button, do not do it yet, because as Alessandro said and as others said, after that it won't be possible to make changes. After you select configuration, it won't be possible to make any changes. I indicated my contact number on the chat. Contact me to discuss what you are concerned with in order to avoid any difficulties in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amin. And now to Nicoletta Giannazzo for her final remark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really exciting to see the interest of the schools, but also the willingness of Natavan and Amin to support and being available. I think that's very important. It's really nice to see and hear. We're also available for your questions and whatever you need to support this process. I would like to stress, like in closing, the importance of, after taking the selfie exercise, planning your digital strategy. As Alessandro mentioned, like, don't put very many things, choose one and analyze the actions you're going to take and start implementing it. I would like to prompt you as well to choose something that you would like your schools to develop, but you do not know how to go about this, because we have Natavan and Admin, and try and think how we can, and take this information to us and see how we can help you with this. In closing, that's my final remark, just to say that the design of a digital strategy for a school, on the one hand, it's not easy. That is why it is important to involve the whole school community. It's not a task only for the school leader or the school coordinator to take their shoulders. It's a big thing. So you need the support of the whole school community and bring them on board in the discussion of the plan and in the implementation. On the other hand, it is easy in a way because this is something you do in your classroom every day. You always, you go in the class, you work with your students, and then when you finish, automatically you reflect. What did it go well? What did it not go well? And what I will do the next time. So in a way, it's you have been doing this. So SELFIE just provides some structure in order to think for how to use the digital technology. So I hope this helps, and best of luck. Looking forward to hearing more.
Thank you, Nicoletta. Thank you very much for your participation today. And now, Alessandro, for closing the meeting. Thank you all.
So thank you also from my side. If you have, I would just to recall, if you could please fill in the questionnaire that is put in it's 1 minute while I'm closing this event. Let me say that in the name of the Ministry of Education and of the Joint Research Center, I want to thank you, all the participants. I want to reassure you that this is just the beginning of the process. What we are looking for are your ideas about the tools and see how we could best fit in the education and training system in Azerbaijan. So don't worry. Amin and Natavan, we will shadow you behind them. We are here to support. So don't worry. It's important that you really see and try the tool as much as you can. Explain the exercise to those that you intend to participate. Amin was suggesting to invite all the school community. This is fine, but please take a moment to explain the exercise. And now I want to thank you, all of you. We need schools to make the things happening. So that's why we are counting on you to understand this tool and to make it working for Azerbaijan. A special thanks to Natavan and Amin. Without them, we could not be here today. I would like to thank also the interpreters that was helping all of us to understand each other, and also to the company Consis that was providing, and in particular to Mariam, that was providing the technical support to this event. Everything was working finally, so that's great. And best wishes for a successful pilot of SELFIE, and goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Soso.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.